I'm a bad motherfucker.
Greetings. We delve into all things Ashkenazim, super brain, perpetrating terror, and also, of course, talking about the increased capacity of the Ashkenazim occipital lobe for murder, deceit, genocide, and child rape. Thank you, Jesus. Welcome, everyone. As always, we have something very special planned for you guys today. In terms of yesterday's stream, the Devils didn't record it. I'm checking, and I check every time now because this happened before. I'm checking this space right now as we speak, my friends, and the record red light is flashing. So that's our indication that this is being recorded. A lot of people were very upset. We had a fucking unbelievable space yesterday. We played the Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, Norm Finkelstein debate. Hey guys, did you know that Rabbi Shmuley's daughter sells the slickest lube on the market that you can possibly slap on your Johnson to facilitate and maximize and optimize the best kosher sex experience you could ever expect? Did you know this? No, it tastes like matzah. Oh, Rabbi Shmuley's daughter sells strap-on dildos as well. Please look, get all your sex toy lubrication needs from Rabbi Shmuley. Okay, it goes right to Chabad. And that's another thing, right? I get into this whole thing because I'm not, I obviously have the big disagreement with Bjerknes. Oh, and by the way, daily reminder: anybody out there that is still not blocked by Christopher John Bjerknes, please go ahead and send him an invite and tell him to come in into this space. Tell him that his presence in this space is required, and we're going to go forward from there. And the whole thing about the dialectic and everybody's controlled, right? The East West is controlled. Putin's playing his role. He's a world an NWO fucking actor, right? If you actually believe this, then what are you doing? Just wave the white flag of surrender. If both sides are compromised, and we're following the script of the omnipotent Jewish NWO, and it's all a fait accompli, it's a done deal, then go ahead and surrender. What are you doing here? No, it's not that way, or else, like I said, it would be game over. This whole council of despair, woe is me, woe is me. The Russians can't do anything right. If they oppose Israel, right? If they're shooting down their missiles, right? Turning on their anti-air radars and systems and shooting down guided bombs and missiles, they're playing their role in the script because it's Gog Magog and Russia has to turn on Israel, right? Right? So if they oppose Israel, they're playing their role. If they're with Israel, it shows that Putin is a Chabad puppet, right? Yeah, I like the way you guys work that. You do it with the skill of a Hebrew. So it's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Woe is me, American Empire apologetics. Any of you motherfuckers want to step right up, go ahead. Thank you, Jesus. And please, I'm going to need a little bit more substance than he's pictured with Chabad. And Dugin. He's Dugin. Oh, speaking of Dugin, what do you think about this? CJB simp fanboys, listen to this, and I want your opinion. I want your opinion on Dugin, the Eurasianist, the architect of the destruction of the West, and how he's going to murder us all, right? Because he's down with this whole plan. Let's listen to this. You tell me what you think about this.
And Israel, Gaza, and Israel, and Palestine is totally different things because that was the territory where mostly Arabs population, Islamic and sometimes Christian lived before the settlers from Europe and from all other part of the world started to people it, and they promised to original Arab population not to steal their earth, their riches, their houses, and the Jews coming to Israel started to violate this promise and started to make violence against the original population, and that was one military operation and political operation after the other. Finally, they have defined against all humanity, all the resolutions of the United Nations. They have put original people in the two zones, not letting them get out of it, as if in concentration camp. And they have installed in Israel itself racist rules based on the attitudes to Palestinians and Arabs as the people of subhuman kinds. And now, when Hamas attacked the territory of Israel, but it is not territory of Israel, in the eyes of Palestinians, in the eyes of Arabs, in the eyes of all Muslim world, is Palestine. That's their territory. They have attacked nobody, nothing, because Israel is a legitimate in their eyes. So now Israel is destroying, is genocide all the territory that not only belongs to Palestinians, because all the territory of Palestine, including territory more or less Israel, belongs to Palestinians, and the Jews could find a way to cohabitate with them, but they prefer to behave themselves as butchers, as killers, as assassins, and instead of try to find some balance between two religious and ethnic community, they, with the support of the Western globalists, they just have constructed racist states in the conquered lands.
Boom! Butchers, killers, assassins. Very eloquent, well stated. The people, the CJB simps out there, they watch this, and they're unaffected, right? No, we got to double down. We got to dig in. Dugin's a Kabbalist, don't you know? He's a Kabbalist. Yeah. Okay. And this goes to the whole thing about ignorance and people that are so stuck. They start believing their own bullshit, right? If you're in this whole thing and you actually believe that you have the keys to the kingdom and all the answers, and you're not wrong, all your positions are correct, then your inflexibility will cost you credibility, as it did with CJB. If you want to get on that SS crazy train CJB as it sinks, you're more than welcome to it. I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, and I can reevaluate my position when the evidence, proves me wrong. I was wrong about the whole white genocide replacement thing in Europe, and the evidence brought me there. Yeah, it's real. It's a real plan. It's not the same thing as being drone struck if you're an Arab Muslim in the Middle East, but it's definitely on the itinerary, and they want to do a demographic replacement. I can see this. I was wrong, and I came around because the evidence brought me there. But you want to keep digging in your heels that Putin is the Antichrist, Dugin, blah blah, Eurasian, bunting cloverleaf map, Brendan O'Connell, fucking Christopher John Bjorkness. You want to pound the fucking war drums and have an indistinguishable position from Rachel Maddow and the kosher MSM vis-a-vis China and Russia? Go right ahead. You're welcome to stake that out. Good luck with that. And what's the point? What's the point if you guys are right and organized world Jewry is this omnipotent force that has the East and West controlled on a par level, which is fucking absolutely ridiculous, that cannot be substantiated in any way, shape, or form. But let's go ahead and I'll play along with your delusional perception here. Let's say it is that you're right, that Putin is a kabod puppet and Dugin is a Eurasianist architect of the destruction of the West, and it's on par with Western Zionist slave status, and they're following this script to destroy the West and to blow it all up. Then what's the point? What's the point? What are we doing here? If it's a fait accompli, if it's a done deal, if they're running it by the numbers and it's scripted, What are you doing here? Raise the white flag. Surrender. Register with your local Chabad synagogue to be a slave in the era of the Moshiach, in the Shabbos millennium. Do your best for Zion. I don't get it. But there's nothing to get because it's faulty, it's flawed. Anybody who is pounding the drums for NATO, that doesn't understand that NATO is a terrorist organization, it is an armed wing of the JWO, then I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. What do you need to see? Yugoslavia, Libya, it's not a defensive organization. It's a tool in their box, right? Now what have we had in the last 24 hours? Strikes in South Lebanon, strikes in Damascus, missile strikes. The Zionists and their co-religionists are turning up the heat, right? They're putting the pedal to the metal. The provocations are coming in fast and furious, right? Terrorist attacks in Iran. They continue to assassinate people around the Middle East. You had the Hamas negotiator. They assassinated the Hamas negotiator that did the hostage deal for them a couple of months ago. The guy that they were working with, they assassinated in Lebanon. So whenever you see the UN or the Americans or the West say, oh, we want to de-escalate, we want to bring tensions down, and all the while, Israel is on a murderous rampage. No, they just want one side not to shoot back. That's what it is, right? And we have, and this is another thing. The wind is at our backs. Every day, the enemy, right, is getting more and more overcome with negative publicity, negative opinion. The PR war is fucking over, right? They're losing on every front. On the ground, militarily, in the public square, in the UN. The United States issued their fourth veto. The fourth time that they have stood up against a ceasefire, right? And sparing these poor Palestinians from further carnage, right? And the world sees this. With every veto, the Americans lose credibility in the eyes of the world. And every day, the forces against Israel grow stronger and stronger, exponentially. Whether it's Spain, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Nicaragua, whether it's Mexico, I think there's something like 50 countries with petitions at the International Court of Justice on behalf of the Palestinians. They are getting overrun in terms of the paperwork and the procedural litigation in the UN against Israel, right? And this goes to a lot of other things too, in terms of boycotting. Starbucks and McDonald's are suffering because of the boycotts. Do you get it? It's working. Things are going in our favor. Like Cliff said, we're going to win if we don't stop. We're going to win if we don't stop. And I don't want to hear your tale of woe or your counsel of despair about it's all controlled, we're following a script, it's all over, the Jews have won. Don't want to hear it. If you want to bring it in here and debate the East-West fucking Hegelian dialectic is on par, step to me for the beatdown. Come. You're more than welcome. Step right up and don't be shy. We can have that debate. And you can tell me about all the pictures with Putin and the Chabad rabbis and Dugin, the Kabbalist. And supply nothing of substance other than insinuendos and guilt by association and pictures. I ask all these simps, every single one of these motherfuckers, Present me one policy that reflects this Chabad Putin slave relationship. Explain to me one thing that he was. Oh, Bert, he got rid of the general that criticized the Chabad. Oh, okay. That's the best. It's fucking ridiculous. It's laughable. It's beyond pathetic. Beyond pathetic. One example. That's all I want. One example. Raul. Hello. Go ahead, Raul. Go ahead. You can speak.
Hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that we are winning, right? Obviously, because Israel's like economy is destroyed completely, right, by the war, and also the fact that everything's out in the open now. Like you can't hide this stuff no more. The whole control of the media is breaking, right? People can't unsee what they saw on social media, and I think right now Israel's.
I don't know what you're doing, dude. Are you like spinning something in your hand? The microphone is very sensitive.
Can you hear me now or not?
Yeah, I hear some background stuff. I don't know what you're doing. Are you fiddling with something?
No, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, hopefully this works. So I agree with you that Israel is losing the war. I think that the U.S. has a problem child that it needs to deal with, and I think that eventually, you're going to have the Israeli project to be abandoned. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Brother B, please keep your microphone turned off, bro. I mean, you should know better than that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you that Israel's losing the war, right? Because the social media, people can't unsee what they saw, first off. Secondly, I think that the U.S. has a problem child and it kind of realizes that now. It's like, oh shit, now we got to support Israel. We have all this Jewish lobby. It's pressuring us, but you know what? We're also losing as a nation in the world stage, right? So I think Israel is losing. Israel's economy is destroyed. They're completely destroyed. The economy is 20% contraction this year. So, and also, lastly, a lot of nations, Brazil, South Africa, large countries are just making it a pariah state. So, I think if we keep going, like you said, right, I think that at the end of the day, even the U.S. will abandon ship. I think Israel will probably relocate either to eastern Ukraine or they will pretty much go back to where they came from. But I think that the project will be done. The project will, because even the rabbis, they have a thing in the Torah, I guess, that says that anytime the Jews build a nation based on Judaism,
80 years.
80 years, right? There's 5 years.
80
Yeah,
years.
exactly. So there you go.
80 years. Well, yeah. Good job, Raul. I agree with you. That the wind is at our backs, and they're on their back foot for sure. And in desperation, you see them like flailing out. If they take an L in the UN or in some kind of public relations fiasco, how do they react? They butcher and murder and kill more civilians. I mean, this is an evil that I would dare say we have never seen before.
Also,
A total blatant disregard for human life.
one more thing is I would like people to understand is that, there's also propaganda, right? We've been given this propaganda that Israeli military / Mossad is so amazing. They're just, geniuses at all these tactics and stuff. But when Hamas attacked Israel, they mostly attacked like military installations and stuff. Hamas basically kicked the ass of Israeli defense forces. They kicked ass. They killed. They went up to the airport. They took out the elite squad, which I forgot what the unit's called, but it's like an elite unit in the IDF. Couldn't stand in battle against Hamas. Hamas just came in and just like went through battalions of. So this whole fallacy that Israel's got some amazing fighting force, blah blah blah.
Right.
It's all a joke. It's a
Yeah.
Hollywood script. It's marvelous
Right.
for you guys. Thank you.
And that's what they're reacting to, because it was a humiliation, and they count on having this so-called aura of invincibility for a deterrence, right? Oh, the Arabs think they can. It's like the Amalekites, right? Never forget what Amalek did to you when you were fleeing Egypt, right? So they have this whole this policy of a vicious deterrent. This is their policy. You kill one of ours, we'll kill 1,000 of you. This is the Jewish mentality, okay? And when that breaks down, it's a problem for them. Nobody is scared of the terrorist state anymore. The Arabs. This is what also who was it that said this? They're not afraid, and they think that they can defeat the Israelis now for the first time in a long time. I think it was I don't know if it was somebody in Electronic Intifada, but I got
Yeah.
some really good. I got some really good clips. Go ahead.
Yeah, so lastly, all I would say is, if you look at Netflix, right, they made this movie with Sacha Baron Cohen where he plays this Israeli Mossad spy. They always portray themselves as moral, good people who are just out there trying to keep security, keep them from being butchered en masse again. That's how they portray it. And even there's a show on Apple TV that I used to watch called Tehran, where they show the Mossad as some invincible, amazing, moral. But then October 7th kind of exposed that they're just an average army. They're not invincible. I bet you that U.S. Special Forces could kick their butt. Like
I'm going to tell you what. They're not. They're not even average. They're below average. I'll tell you why. For the last couple of generations, the Zionists did their work correctly and got their American Western slaves to do all their fighting for them. So in the last 2-3 generations since 9/11, they've gone soft. They'd rather be cruising Grinder, trying to hook up for gay sex, play their video games than actually fight armed men. They're much more well suited to brutalizing women and children in the West Bank, right?
I agree completely. Yeah,
Brother B, are you done, Raul?
yeah. Good discussion, Albert. Thanks. I'm done. Thank you.
My man. Brother B, hello.
Good morning. My name's Brian, and I am a Palestinian. We're all Palestinians. Good morning, Al, and good morning, my fellow space cadets.
Hello.
So I was before your live came on. I was looking at some other lives. It looked like is the IJC meeting today live, or maybe they're playing a recording?
No, they're meeting live.
Oh, okay. So I went on Al Jazeera, and it showed that they were live too. So let's pray for the best that we'll get some justice here, and and I definitely appreciate you've made me look at my position and not be so because you're absolutely right. I'm falling right into that kosher script, that cognitive dissonance that that was played. I think all of us in some way or another. But all we're on different degrees. Some are coming out of it and waking others up. Because I was looking back at trying to find something that Putin was doing things for Israel, and it's like a few years back they did cooperate on some terrorism things, but that's way before even COVID. It's like the article's like 8 years old. So what he's doing, he's knocking the missiles down. That's good, and he's stepping up to the plate. But I was gonna, my the last few times I've called, I've pointed out how the rhetoric has been building here in the U.S. towards Putin. First it was these space weapons, this big thing this guy went on, and whistleblower. Then it was oh man, what was the other? But now I'll do the latest one. I just heard about Pelosi saying that Putin is helping Trump financially, because of all the money Trump owes, that Putin's gonna step in and take care of Trump financially. That's the latest I heard on that. So that's it for now.
All right, bro. Yeah, Trump has enough Jewish money. He doesn't need Putin's.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's. I got some good shit here for you guys. We'll save. Let's get started with
How many civilians are we allowed to watch die? Is it defenseless people getting pummeled from the air by one of the most sophisticated and powerful militaries on this planet? They have occupied Palestinian land in contravention of international law. They have blockaded Palestinian territory in contravention of international law. They have built and enlarged settlements in contravention of international law, enforced an apartheid system that strips Palestinians of the most basic civic and human rights. They have also targeted and killed and injured civilians on a mass scale for decades. And the response of the Western world at this time is what? Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, what exactly does that mean? Is that they can cut off food, that they can cut off the power, that they can cut off water, that they can enforce the displacement of over 1 million citizens in what has been described by NGOs and United Nations reps on the ground as an open-air prison. How many civilians are we allowed?
Boom! How can you not love the Irish? The Irish kick ass. Okay? Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Nobody is more eloquent, more articulate in expressing this fucking savagery, the inhumanity, and advocating for human rights than the Irish. Hail Sinn Féin. Hail. Let's listen to that again, man. Guys, darn it.
Is it defenseless people getting pummeled from the air by one of the most sophisticated and powerful militaries on this planet? They have occupied Palestinian land in contravention of international law. They have blockaded Palestinian territory in contravention of international law. They have built and enlarged settlements in contravention of international law, enforced an apartheid system that strips Palestinians of the most basic civic and human rights. They have also targeted and killed and injured civilians on a mass scale for decades. And the response of the Western world at this time is what? Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, what exactly does that mean? Is that they can cut off food, that they can cut off the power, that they can cut off water, that they can enforce the displacement of over 1 million citizens in what has been described by NGOs and United Nations reps on the ground as an open-air prison. How many civilians are allowed to watch die? Is it defenseless people getting pummeled from the air by one of the...
Unbelievable.
Why has Israel failed to defeat Hamas?
Israeli former Prime Minister Ehud Barak said Hamas is an ideology that cannot be defeated. Therefore, Israel is going against the population of Gaza, destroying buildings, killing children and women. However, it has failed to defeat the resistance because it's made by the people who are fighting an occupation force. The only thing they have managed to do is to kill many prisoners. Secondly, because they are indiscriminately bombing Gaza.
This is a video published by Hamas showing them placing an explosive device under an Israeli tank, destroying another tank with a rocket launcher, and targeting Israeli snipers.
Nobody, no army in the world has managed to destroy a resistance that enjoys support of the society in the place where it is operating.
Why has Israel failed?
That's an important point. And you know what? You're saying to yourself, well, what the fuck is wrong with these Israelis? How can they not understand this? They do. Ariel Sharon, the butcher himself, said that occupation cannot last forever. There has never been a successful occupation, right? In history. As long as the indigenous people resist, they eventually win. Well, they're trying to set a precedent that's not going to be set, my friends. Yeah. We're going to rock and roll. We're taking no prisoners today. Fighting for justice, fighting for peace. You know what? You have to fight for peace. It's easy to fucking pound the war drums and go to war, but it's much more difficult to fight for peace. Everybody wants war. Congress, the dancers, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, and Sheldon Whitehouse, and the Republican, Democratic warmongers, the MIC, the intelligence agencies. Everybody's on the... There is no peace party. Both of our parties are war parties. There is no peace movement in America. Why not? Why not? Why is that not allowed? but we can have AIPAC lobbying Congress to attack Iran on a daily basis, right? That's okay. They don't have to register as foreign agents. We can have dual citizens in Congress. We can have fucking American congressmen showing up in the halls of Congress wearing their IDF uniforms. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you gagging? Are you throwing up a little bit in your mouth right now? It's fucking sick. It's insanity. Why do we grovel? Why do we act like Israel is the 51st state? Why do we pretend that Israel is our greatest enemy when she is an, I don't even want to call her she, when it is our greatest enemy that has attacked us multiple times, perpetrated the greatest terrorist attack on the U.S. mainland, gave us our worst defeat in the sea, in the attack on the USS Liberty, right? Aside from Pearl Harbor, of course. 34 American sailors, 171 sailors injured, 34 dead. In June 1967, at the beginning of the Six-Day War. And what was happening? What was happening when that attack was going on? When the reconnaissance was going on? Lyndon Baines Johnson was sleeping with an Irgun terrorist that very night. Ain't real history grand? Rahul, my man, go ahead. Hello.
Yeah, I just got one thing to say. I mean, I think 51st state, I think it's treated better than the 51st state, right? Like, for example, when we have hurricanes, tornadoes, we have, no drinking water in Flint and all these places. The U.S. government, the federal government doesn't give a shit, okay? The states in the United States, for example, like Texas, where there's like a massive border issue going on, or Hawaii, where we had all those like natural disasters, the government doesn't care. Okay, but when it comes to Israel, oops! As soon as they have one small incident, we rush like billions to them. We rush to the UN. So I think they're treated like a holy cow, like a holy sacred cow. And even
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi said this, like the Capitol can burn, but our support for Israel will always be there. So there's some weird ass shit going on in DC, which I just don't understand for the life of me. What weird ass shit goes on? I think it's
They're
maybe the
bought.
Epstein.
They're
Yeah,
bought. They're either bought and paid for, or they're
or blackmailed.
compromised. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Epstein.
you're not going to get anywhere near. You're not going to sniff anywhere near high leadership unless they know you're their guy. If you're not on their team, you're not going to advance. And this goes across the board, whether it's in the intelligence sphere, the Pentagon, Congress, the judiciary. It's full spectral dominance. Okay, Rahul. All right, let's go back. I got some other. There's a lot going on right now, and they're feeling the heat. It's definitely at that point where they're feeling the heat, and that explains why you're going to get all this bullshit in terms of Israel flailing out and attacking Lebanon, attacking Syria, Damascus. Okay, I don't want to go into this one right now. Let's go to, hold on 1 second. Here we go.
But maybe we can go to number 3 tomorrow. Here, this is in the Al Ramal neighborhood, and Layla talked about on the show the other day what they've done to the downtown of Gaza. So we're watching here a sniper with a rangefinder. We're watching Israeli dismounted soldiers walking amid just total ruins of what used to be the downtown core of Gaza, the beating heart of Gaza, where you have the commercial center, it's the beachfront promenade, you have all the government ministries, Shifa Hospital, the Legislative Council. It's the downtown public heart of the Gaza Strip. And you're watching 2 soldiers here overseeing a bulldozer bulldozing what used to be massive civilian towers. And again, we're going to, just to keep this show online, you're going to have to use your imagination, what happened in the next scenes, but they're direct hits. Maybe this is a chance to say these full videos are on my Twitter feed unedited, but we are trying to skate around the YouTubes here and keep these shows online by making wise edits. And in the dialogue in this scene, you can hear you can hear them talking to each other, and the spotter says, "Here they come," as they walk in, and the shooter says, "Wait a second, let's be patient. Let's wait for them to feel comfortable," which is what you see there, them feeling comfortable. And the next scenes is the Israeli on the right is hit. Israel last week admitted to one of the sniper victims, but they haven't admitted to these sniper victims killed in the north. And so you can see with the Al Ghul sniper rifle that there's a range. You can see here the shooter is using a rangefinder there to get the proper distance, the exact distance, to get the topography of the land, and then he's moving to his sniper rifle, which has a range, an effective range of more than a kilometer, a maximum range of 2 kilometers. So with the size of the Gaza Strip, that puts most of these soldiers in range of the Al Ghul sniper rifle. And Qassam has shown this rifle being developed. It's a copy of an Austrian rifle that the Iranians broke down into component parts, and Palestinians have several of the original rifles, but then they're manufacturing the parts for the additional rifles, which is something that the Palestinian resistance has done with all of these weapons. And so you can see, again, whatever the opposite of soldiers in a window is, this Palestinian sniper is on a mattress. He's at the back of the room. He's completely away. His muzzle is inside the window, so the muzzle flash doesn't show outside the window. And what we're seeing, of course, I guess they don't put their misses on the videos, but on the videos that we've seen, these sniper hits are dead shots. They are perfect shots. They're not glancing blows that we've seen. So they're clearly as skilled with the Al Ghul rifle as they are with the Yassin. And again,
John, one question I have about this.
All right, check this out. You guys want to hear about, see what's going on in The Hague, right?
The U.S. State Department's acting legal advisor, Richard C. Weissek, who was addressing the International Court of Justice at The Hague on day 3 of public hearings into the legal consequences of Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories, which has lasted for nearly 6 decades. We heard the US there warning the court against issuing an advisory that would jeopardize the established UN framework for what he calls lasting peace. He said, such as the immediate withdrawal of Israel without addressing Israeli security needs within the Palestinian territories. Let's bring in Marwan Bishai now. He's out as a senior political analyst to discuss this further. Good to have you here, Marwan. You said earlier that you expected the US to defend Israel when it was indefensible. Do you think that's what it did?
Yes, but in a very, very clever way. And this is the kind of thing you would expect from a superpower, right? And this is the time when it's anything but vulgar, right? I mean, it's very sober, very clever, and very sophisticated argument. It just doesn't make it any less absurd and any less dishonest. Okay? The overall message of the American representative is that the court should be at the service of the American-Israeli negotiation strategy.
Right.
Not that the American-Israeli negotiation strategy should abide by the court ruling.
When it was talking about the UN resolutions that have already been passed, you mean? The framework that exists?
But he said that when he emphasized that all of this is subject to the framing of the negotiations. Not that, for example, what's the heart of these sessions is for the court to say whether the occupation is legal or illegal. Which brings me to the second point. Why should the court ruling that the occupation is illegal be any cumbersome, be any burden on the American-Israeli negotiations? Why? I mean, because otherwise it should be legal? It's illegal. I mean, and the question here is that it's not a question of a few years, a few months, a few weeks. It's been going on for 56 years. And here comes a bit of the dishonesty. Yes, the American position has been, under Trump, later on Biden, at least, right, the past 8 years, whereby America, for example, accepted Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights, a Syrian-occupied territory. So it's not true that America does not accept the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by force.
Right.
Because it recognized Israel's annexation of the Golan and recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which later on President Trump said, I relieved you, Israel, from this whole issue of Jerusalem. Right? Now we, America, recognized your annexation of Jerusalem, de facto. So in fact, the United States did take a good number of steps that are in utter violations of international law. And then there's this whole ambiguity about the settlements. Of course, the United States, historically speaking, has taken the position that transferring one's population to an occupied territory, as Israel has done over the years, is illegal. But then it started to become more and more and more ambiguous, so much so that in latter years, it basically accepted them as de facto, accepted the settlements block as de facto, and asked the Palestinians, demanded that the Palestinians swap territory because they must leave those settlements in place. And for me, aside from all the legal issues that I am not exactly versed in, because I'm just basically commenting on the politics of the American presentation, it's probably the most important underlying issue of this whole thing, right? And why Israel justifies its occupation, why America accepts Israel's justification for occupation. And what we've heard here said, I think probably a dozen times, Israel's security.
Right to defend itself.
You put it twice on the questions, right, or something. What is Israel's security? Who defines Israel's security? Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel says Israel's security can only be guaranteed if it takes charge on all the territory from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, which means any future Palestinian state that Mr. whoever his name is talks about is actually going to be under Israeli control. Hence, the American representative doesn't even mention the end of occupation. That the erection, the establishment of the Palestinian state requires ending the occupation. He doesn't even talk about that. Dismantling the settlement, defining the borders on the 1967, because anything less than that would be accepting the acquisition of territory by force. Right. So, once again, quite sophisticated, quite clever, quite sober, right? But quite absurd and dishonest, to be honest. In fact, in terms of what is required of this court, this is the world's court. The world's court cannot be at the disposition and at the service of American Pax Americana, of American-Israeli negotiation tactics.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because of the 51 countries presenting arguments, only America and Fiji will be arguing against the illegal occupation. So let's argue against the idea.
51 countries will be arguing on behalf of Palestine. Now, don't you think that this is going to tax America? They're going to be, our delegates, all this stuff, all this hubbub is a huge drain. It's only compounding. It's like the veritable snowball falling down the mountain, and then it becomes a huge thing, right? As time increases, as the savagery is better known and illuminated and exposed, this is already an albatross around their necks, and it's only going to get worse. Only going to get worse.
Support for Israel has been criticized by many around the world, and that criticism has increased during the past few weeks of the war on Gaza. Muslim Jordan looks at the history of the ties between the two countries, including how it hasn't always been as harmonious as many think.
Thank you for having me.
Joe Biden is the 14th U.S. president who has tried to resolve the Israel-Palestine conflict. On the first day of the war in Gaza, Biden offered complete support for Israel, no calls on it to show restraint.
We must be crystal clear. We stand with Israel.
Biden's support harkens back to that of President Harry Truman, who in 1948 recognized the state of Israel within 11 minutes of its declaration of independence. But some subsequent presidents took a more tough love approach. Dwight Eisenhower, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan all condemned Israeli military action on occasion. But Reagan also started the practice of awarding Israel $3 billion in aid every year.
A strong, secure Israel is a shared interest.
The George H.W. Bush administration was the first to threaten to cut aid to Israel if it didn't stop illegally building settlements in the occupied West Bank.
Thank you for your statement.
The Obama administration took the unusual step in 2016 of withholding a veto in the UN Security Council after Benjamin Netanyahu, now Prime Minister, ignored Washington's request to stop settlement expansion. The U.S.'s abstention cleared the way for the Security Council to demand Israel stop construction. Notably, the question of U.S. aid.
And did you notice what happened? We abstained. They passed a resolution demanding an end to settlement activity. And did that work? Did they abide by international law, or are they in contravention of international law? It's so fucking crystal clear. They're in violation of multiple resolutions. Multiple. Dozen or so. 20. I don't know how many. And we went to war with Iraq because of one. And that was based on fucking a false pretext. It's fucking, there's no doubt, there's no question as to who is a rogue state. Who thinks that they are above accountability and above responsibility and will not listen to anyone's demands. The world demands an end to this, and you see the Israeli response. More bloodshed, more carnage, more horror. Excuse me. Where did that go? Yeah, guys, if you want to step up, go ahead, make a request. I got some cool shit here I want to share with you guys. Where did that go? Just had it up here. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, folks. Tastes like matzah. I just gotta go. I gotta refresh this. I have the fastest internet, but for some reason it's not cooperating. Here we go.
Washington's unwavering support for Israel has been criticized by many around the world, and that
is a shared interest.
The George H.W. Bush administration was the first to threaten to cut aid to Israel if it didn't stop illegally building settlements in the occupied West Bank.
Thank you for your statement.
The Obama administration took the unusual step in 2016 of withholding a veto in the UN Security Council after Benjamin Netanyahu, now Prime Minister, ignored Washington's request to stop settlement expansion. The U.S.'s abstention cleared the way for the Security Council to demand Israel stop construction. Notably, the question of U.S. aid for Israel never came up at either of the Camp David summits, and it was never raised by either Presidents George W. Bush or Donald Trump. Trump's support gave Israel what it craved, the recognition of Jerusalem as capital of the Jewish state. Now, with the war in Gaza in its 5th month and the death toll rising, some in Congress say aid to Israel must be made conditional.
There should be no blank checks for any country. We cannot continue the pattern where Prime Minister Netanyahu says, "Thank you, Mr. President, for America's generous military assistance," and then thumbs his nose at America's legitimate requests.
Imagine that.
A subtle change in U.S. policy afoot.
And you know what? That's a fucking big deal. An American senator saying this in the Senate chambers is a big deal because we are such fucking slaves.
The U.S. has circulated a draft Security Council resolution on Gaza that includes words it has refused to use before now, a temporary ceasefire. But still no definitive plan to leverage billions of dollars in U.S. aid to convince Netanyahu to change the way he's conducting the war. The show of support yet to be matched by what Washington says is its alarm over the situation in Gaza. Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera, Washington.
We're going to bring in Marwan Bishai, Al Jazeera senior political analyst, to discuss all of this. So Rosalind's report there saying that we should understand that the relations between the U.S. and Israel have not always been as strong as one might anticipate. But to listen to what we were hearing in the International Court of Justice just a few hours ago, it is quite clear that the U.S. is putting Israel's security as the priority for anything that happens in the future.
True, but it's also true that American-Israeli relations after 1967 war and the occupation of Palestinian and Arab territory has generally been strong. Despite the ups and downs, it has maintained and remained and even became stronger with the time. But 1967 was an inflection year, if you will, in the relationship. In the 2 decades before 1967, Israel got in from the United States something like $1 billion+ in 20 years, $1 billion or so dollars. In the following 2 decades, after Israel occupied Palestinian and Arab land, it got $50 billion plus. So you can imagine the difference. Suddenly, Israel's occupation of Palestinian and Arab territories became an American investment. America started investing in Israel not when it was weak and, let's say, vulnerable, and let's say in a smaller territory without strategic depth as it was between 1948 and 1967. After Israel won against the combined forces of Arab militaries and occupied a territory 3 times its size, that's when America got on the action and doubled, quadrupled, and then it basically went from $1+ billion to $50 billion in American aid. And in the past 50, 60 years, if you take it in 2024 dollars, it's like $300 billion of American aid.
So what's America getting for its money?
This is the thing, right? So I think Israel and its occupation of Arab and Palestinian territory became a geopolitical asset for the United States. And at the time, from 1967 to 1977, America was telling the Arab world and Israel, the only way you can get your land back is if you stop allying yourself with the Soviet Union and start allying yourself with the United States. That was the primary condition, at least on Egypt in the beginning. It had to move from the Soviet camp to the American camp during the Cold War in order to recover the Sinai. And it was the same thing for the Syrians, if they weren't as lucky. But also even for American assets like Jordan, it became even closer to the United States, and its relationship with the United States would help it recover and establish peace. It was the same thing as with the PLO in 1988. They would have to distance themselves from anything, denounce, as it were, terrorism, and align themselves with the United States if they had any chance to recover. So occupation of Palestine became an asset for the United States, that it would invest money in Israel in order to maintain it and reject any notion of surrendering it, except if the Arabs start accepting American diktats.
So I understand what you were saying about Israel being essentially a front line, for want of a better phrase, for U.S. interests in the Middle East, particularly against Arab states. But in the Trump administration, we had the Abraham Accords, where the UAE and Bahrain signed normalization agreements with Israel. The Biden administration has been pushing Saudi Arabia to do the same thing with Israel. So if that is beginning to coalesce to some degree, and these are significant powers within the Middle East, where does the U.S. see the benefit still in maintaining Israel as that front line?
When Biden first became president, in the so-called Biden doctrine, in his first major speech on foreign policy, he made very clear, America is back. America is not going to leave any vacuum for Iran, Russia, and China to fill in the Middle East. So it was a clear message to all America's nemesis around the world, the 3 main regional and international forces, that America was going to use its leverage and influence again under Biden in order to make sure that it will keep all 3 countries, all 3 powers, outside the geopolitical calculus of the Middle East. And hence, it started investing in the Abraham Accords and in new normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel, as well as other countries, in order to build the new axes of the so-called Israel moderate Arab regimes against or devoid of Russian, Chinese, and Iranian influence in order to serve American geopolitical interests in the region.
Boom. And what's happened? What's happened since the Biden doctrine and America's back and we're going to push everybody out? Russia, China, Iran are going to have nothing to do with it. Blah, 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 blah. What's happened? Russia's winning. China's winning. Iran's winning. We've lost the global south. Our reputation, our image around the world has never been lower. We're seen as a co-belligerent and an enabler of a genocide. The crime of crimes, all of these illusions of American human rights, a force for good, a shiny city on a hill in Israel is a light unto nations. Yeah, the light of the eye of Sauron's light unto nations. It's all going badly. It's all coming apart. We're being dragged down. Israel's going down, and she's taken America and the West with it. We don't call her her. We don't call her her. Cosmic Johnson. Hello. Cosmic, I guess you're listening now. Okay. All right. Are we still recording? I think we're recording here. As the Talmud tells us, the Jewish the law of the Jewish book, the Gentiles are not human beings. All right.
Aid for Israel never came up at either of the Camp David summits.
Yeah, we listened.
And it was never raised
Sorry, we
by
listened to
either
that already.
Presidents George W. Bush or Donald Trump.
Okay, here we go.
Hello and welcome to her. So, speaking of Dr. Jill Stein, I'm going to bring on our first guest, and that first guest is Dr. Jill Stein, who is a Chicago-born, Harvard-educated physician, environmental health advocate, and organizer for People, Planet, and Peace. She has led initiatives to fight environmental racism, injustice, and pollution.
Yes, I was definitely raised as a Zionist. I mean, what Jew grew up in the 1950s, that wasn't? My grandfather's name was Israel, and we were active in a Reform Jewish synagogue. I went to Sunday school once a week, till I was 13 or 14, something like that. And Israel was a very big deal, and everybody was supposed to go there. For reasons I can't exactly explain, I was sort of resistant to that, maybe because it was the Vietnam War, and I was just suspicious of things that were being sort of drummed into you as a kid. So I think I was maybe the only person in my family that did not go to Israel and sort of be part of that general cheerleading. But the community was a very sort of socially conscious, justice-seeking community, and that was sort of the overarching thing that I got left with. So I never had exactly a wake-up moment, but I was never head over heels, and the family kind of went in various directions. One of my sisters was a very early advocate for Palestinian human rights way back when, and the family was at loggerheads about that, way back, I'd say like in the 70s or so. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an issue, and it's a huge issue, of course, in Jewish culture right now. And I have to say, I'm personally so grateful for the likes of you and Nico Peled and Jewish Voice for Peace that I think play such an important role now in clarifying. It's not, it's Zionism is not Judaism, and furthermore, that Israelis are in the target hairs on this as well, and no one's future is being more imperiled by this, this horrific conflict that really makes Israel kind of the big bad guy now and the pariah state around the world. So this is really a threat to everyone, including everybody in the Jewish community as well.
So what are your thoughts on what Biden is doing, overseeing in Palestine?
This is, this is a textbook case of genocide, and what he's doing right now, after the ICJ basically said, yes, this is a plausible genocide going on right before our very eyes, they have doubled down, and by basically declaring war on UNRWA, and they are, just making this a genocide on steroids, and it's horrific. The invasion, which is gearing up now, of Rafah is incredible. It's just beyond words. It's been beyond words for a long time, and I think many of us are just kind of in shock. What can we do? This isn't just Gaza. I mean, this is sort of an affront, an assault on our basic humanity that this is going on. And how do we communicate to our misleaders, our elected officials, who are just sort of operating on herd instincts here and doing what you're supposed to do, what AIPAC tells you to do, what the weapons industry tells you to do? It's just shocking. And as someone who's been outside of the political system for a long time and very much working to...
Guys, you don't need to send me messages. I know that they don't reflect this space. This space is the most sabotaged, throttled down, suppressed space on this kosher platform for a very good reason, because you're not going to hear anything like this anywhere else, right? So I know that they don't want to promote this content. I know that we're suppressed. I know it's not going to come up on space on X board on the top right hand corner of your screen. I get it, my friends. What can we do? All we can do is keep going. We are going to win. It is inevitable. As long as we don't stop, we will not stop. Every day we grow stronger and stronger. Thank you, Jesus.
To break the stranglehold of the two-party corporate trap. To my mind, this is sort of now the ultimate expression of what's wrong with a political system that is essentially in lockstep and in service of empire, because what's going on there, it really is a symbol of a much bigger problem. It's not as though this is the first genocide that the U.S. has been conducting or been a part of it. I mean, it's unfortunately been in our DNA for a long time, but this one is just really in our faces and our iPhones and our computer screens. It's just everywhere, and it really challenges us. Are we going to say this is okay? Is this the new world order? And it's shocking to think what a fall this has been from a standard of international law that many of us grew up with and thought that there would be some, common sense of shared humanity here. And now we have, what Biden and Blinken call the rules-based order. Whose rules? Our rules, which change from day to day. It's just such flagrant hypocrisy.
Yep.
And there are 2 million people right now whose lives are hanging in the balance. And
I'm proud to say that I voted for Jill Stein. I did. I voted for her.
It's like we're on a death watch for 2 million people, and it's just stunning. But regrettably, this has happened many times before. And in Iraq, approximately 1 million people were killed unjustly.
More.
And in the follow-on then to the Iraq War, that number has increased from 1 million to about 6 million by the Cost of War project at Brown University. So this is not some radical fringe group coming up with some wild idea. This is militarism. This is militarism and empire, and we are looking it full in the face, which is why this is not a simple road hoe here. As Ronald Reagan's Department of Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger said, Israel is the unsinkable battleship for the U.S. in the Middle East. At one point, that would have been our claim to fossil fuels. Now we got plenty of fossil fuels, and we're one of the biggest exporters. But we have a policy called full spectrum dominance, which is the formal name of U.S. military policy. And what it says is that no country will be allowed, whether ally or foe, no country will be allowed to rise, even as a regional power, that the U.S. will dominate all spaces, economic, military, over the sea, under the sea, in cyberspace, in actual space. We will dominate all spheres all the time. That's not working anymore. We are no longer the world's dominant power. There's a real shift in global alignments that's taking place. The BRIC alignment now is a whole lot bigger, and they actually have a bigger GDP now than the U.S. We have to learn to play as team players here. So I grew up, during the Vietnam War. Excuse me. So I was never a fan of politics. To me, it was always a very corrupt, just disreputable system. And so I was always outside the political system. For me, the aha moment was realizing that if we didn't fight politically, that we would continue to be sidelined. So, I was an activist for healthcare, getting money out of politics, cleaning up, coal plants and incinerators. It was really kind of the intersection of health and the environment that really, I describe myself often as a mother on fire, because it's like my sense of the right then connected with kids and my own kids, and seeing their generation get really sick and have a whole lot of diseases that we never had, from diabetes to, just huge struggles with maintaining a healthy weight, asthma, childhood cancers, etc. I'm not a pediatrician, I'm an internist, but I was just very tuned into that because it's my kids.
Why is that? Why are we getting more unhealthy as a society? Why is chronic disease up? Why is autism rates at all-time highs? Why are more people having heart attacks and cancer than ever before? Does any of this make sense? Or shouldn't we be getting healthier as we evolve, as we continue on? Shouldn't there be better physical health? Shouldn't we be eradicating diseases? And all the metrics are going the wrong way. And the whole pandemic, don't even get me started. You talk about an NWO beta test.
Kids and their generation. And that really, just really activated me as a purposeful activist. So I was I was practicing clinical medicine, and I transitioned to political medicine from clinical in order to address the mother of all illnesses, our political system, which is literally killing us. And in order to fix the things that are literally killing us, from pollution to poverty to community violence and nuclear war, and climate change, in order to deal with that, we're going nowhere. We're going backwards, and we're told to measure our progress and how we slow the backslide, So I was not a fan of the political system at all. I was an activist. And as I became more and more frustrated as an activist, we passed campaign finance reform in my home state of Massachusetts. We passed the so-called clean elections.
All right, I want to hear this. Why did Jill Stein meet with Michael Flynn?
So just to debunk things, because I know that there are some normies out there who will watch this and say, "Oh, Jill Stein, she's a Putinist or something. She's responsible for Trump." What were you doing in that photo that they turned into a scandal when you were in Russia? And what do you say to people who say that you gave the election to Trump?
So what I was doing, I was on a tour of a couple of European capitals to talk to world leaders and grassroots groups about our agenda to basically...
This is how despicable the Democrats are.
And fix the climate.
They can actually take a picture, right? This is the whole guilt by association fucking nonsense. The picture said she's sitting there with Michael Flynn at a dinner in Russia. She's a Putin shill. She was in it to throw the election at Trump. This kind of fucking hysteria, right? Come on. You might as well be a Q-tard. You might as well be a Q-tard or one of these guys. It's all symbols. Or they accuse me of being an illuminist, a Freemason, and a Jew, a crypto Jew, because I wear my fucking pharaonic gear with the Eye of Horus. They want to. Do you think I'm going to cede my heritage, my ancestry, to a fucking bunch of fucking whack job occultists that have adopted it and appropriated it? Why the fuck should I do that, simp? Oh no, it's the Eye of Horus. Can't you see? CJP says you're an illuminist, and he can prove it because you're sporting the Eye of Horus. Why would anyone listen to this guy? Right? When you make such a ridiculous assertion, when you say that Adam Green is resemblance to the Baphomet is uncanny, why would you listen to anything else he says? Putin's a pedophile because he pulled up a kid's shirt and kissed his chest. Oh yeah? Is that right? That's your definition of pedophilia? It's fucking madness.
Problem to create a peace offensive in the Middle East.
There you go.
In Russia, I actually said that Russia was following in the disastrous footsteps of the U.S. by bombing Syria. So I'm challenging all the warmongers here for trying to make...
Yeah, but the difference is that they were bombing Syria with the cooperation of the government that invited them in, Dr. Stein. That's the big difference. They're not there illegally as an occupation force.
Peace through war, which doesn't happen. So it was peace in the Middle East and a nuclear weapons ban. Now, if only our leaders would follow my good example and do the same thing, that is what we need to do. That's what John Kennedy did with Khrushchev back in the 1960s and averted a World War III that could have broken out way back then. That's what we need to be doing now. We need to have people who have the backbone to actually talk to their adversaries as well as their allies. This is like not something that should be defended. This is like not rocket science at all. Michael Flynn was not an appointee of the Trump administration at the time. He had most recently been a part of the Obama administration. And he and I exchanged a few words. I gave him my elevator speech about why I was there. He had absolutely no interest in it, and our conversation ended there. At that dinner table, people who spoke English, spoke to each other. People who spoke Russian spoke to each other.
No, you were there in Russia with Michael Flynn. Therefore, you guys were there on behalf of the Trump campaign to torpedo the vile Hillary Clinton. That's what you were doing, right, Democrats? Fucking lunacy.
Then with 3 strapping, muscular guys, I assumed they were his bodyguards. Nobody introduced anybody to anybody. His chief of staff, his press guy, and stuff like that. I even sat next to one of them, but we didn't exchange a single word. They were not interested in, the small peons who happened to be seated at the table. This was a conference, and I had an opportunity to speak at that conference and address press from around the nation about a different kind of America, an America that really wanted peace, that wanted a nuclear weapons ban. And
what America is that?
It was very important that I was there and, lay groundwork for discussion. I had grown up as part of Physicians for Social Responsibility, where we did citizen-to-citizen contact across borders. That's where some of the...
All right, Dr. Stein. I get it. You're one of the good ones. I get it. What I want to go with next is this whole Zionism and Judaism are not the same, right? Let's listen to this.
I put someone in timeout the other day, today, because they wrote like other presidents were Jewish by proxy. I think they meant Zionists, but I'm trying to explain to people. I think we've done a good job of delinking those things, but those
let's listen to this. This is fucking fascinating, right? Let's delink Zionism from Judaism, and let's hear what they have to say. And folks that are just joining in and trickling in, shalom from my home, everyone. This is a wonderful mitzvah, right? Because I'm listening to this for the very first time with you all.
things are not the same.
Right.
The host of the show is Jewish.
I would caution anyone, if you're listening to someone criticizing Israel, if you ever notice them slipping all of a sudden between the word Israel gets replaced with Jew or Jewish, that is a red flag.
Right.
Stop listening. Like that.
No,
That's a red flag.
In the Middle East, I think that I would pull someone, if they said that, I would respectfully correct them. I think in America, that's pretty inexcusable. I think if you're in the Middle East where it's like all you know are the Jews of Israel, that's understandable. Yeah, we spoke about that with Rania Kalik actually. But remember, there are more Christian Zionists than Jewish Zionists in America, and there's a huge Christian Zionist lobby, and a lot of the resistance.
Is that amazing? After they've cultivated evangelical Christian Zionism through the Scofield Darby Bible and Menachem Begin buying Jerry Falwell a jet aeroplane and all of this to cultivate a slave population that will support them, that will be willing to sacrifice life and limb, their very own sons and grandsons, for the sake of Zion. This full spectral propaganda, brainwashing, so that you have Christians going over to Israel to serve them, to work at their vineyards like slaves without getting paid, to churn out Israeli wine, to show their devotion to the Jewish state. Now, I don't know about you, but if you work for free, doesn't that make you a slave?
Right now, too, what Biden is doing is coming from, within the United States at least, is coming from Jewish Americans. So here's what you need to know. Biden had spoken over the phone with Netanyahu the day of the bombings on Sunday, and apparently told him, quote, a military operation in Rafah should not proceed without a credible and executable plan for ensuring the safety of and support for the more than 1 million people sheltering there.
Lip service.
Okay, but
covering your ass. Well, covering your ass, lip service. We've heard it before. We want a cessation of violence as we fucking send them munitions, tank shells, artillery, right? Bombs of the 2,000-pound variety.
About Israel providing support for Palestinians because they're so good at that. In fact, we even have a picture of this. This is a picture of their aid, and it was tweeted out by the Israeli, the country of Israel tweeted this image out.
And can you share that screenshot, Katie?
Oh, it's not up there?
No. Otherwise, I can get it really quickly. But if, if you can share your screen.
I have my doc.
Okay.
The doc with it. Is that?
Let me just give me a second. But continue.
I can do the doc. I'm trying. So it shows. It says it's a tweet by the government of Israel, literally Israel @Israel on Twitter. 11,000 trucks, 140,000 tons of food, 1,000 water trucks, 17,000 tons of medical supplies, 23,000 tons of tents and shelter equipment. Israel will continue to facilitate the transfer of life-saving humanitarian aid to Gaza. Our war is with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza, right? And then they write #Free Gaza from Hamas. And it says, and approximately 23 tons of tents and shelter equipment. And so that image below is apparently shelter equipment. But there's only one problem, which is that according to
it didn't get there.
Twitter,
is that the problem? Perhaps it didn't arrive, or it's not going through.
I lost the document. Yeah, you're gonna have to do as. So it turns out you can't do this at the same time. Hold on.
Oh no.
That's why I asked you if you could do it.
Okay.
All right.
Come on, Katie, get your shit together.
No, don't blame yourself.
But what did it point out?
Well, I wanted to show what this image actually came from.
Oh.
Can you show that?
Is that the second image?
Yeah.
In that? Okay, sure. Let me share my present.
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
That was it? That was your whole thing on
The coordinator for strategic communications at the National Security Council. He was being asked by a reporter if the U.S. would actually do anything if Israel did precisely what Biden claims he told them not to do. Remember, he said that they shouldn't do anything.
Listen to this.
If they don't have a credible and executable plan for ensuring the safety of and support for the more than 1 million people sheltering there. So let's see what John Kirby's response to this following question is.
Rafa, does the president ever threaten to strip military assistance from Israel if they move ahead with a Rafa operation that does not take into consequence what happens with civilians?
We're going to continue to support Israel. They have a right to defend themselves against Hamas, and we're going to continue to make sure they have the tools and the capabilities to do that.
Okay, so it sounds like they're going to do absolutely nothing if they do the thing that Biden claims he's telling them not to do. So Kirby doesn't even play lip service to, we're encouraging them to protect civilians. No, he's absolutely saying, he's given the opportunity to say, will anything happen because of this? Will anything happen if Israel does the thing that the United States is telling them not to?
And that's what he's been saying forever now. And like I mentioned to you earlier, Katie, and maybe this has happened and I just didn't see it or hear it, but I've never once heard someone reply to him like, but that's not what's happening.
Right.
Like, I understand what you're saying. They have the right to defend themselves.
Right, that's not self-defense.
Yeah.
Right. Killing children is not actually self-defense. Yeah.
It makes me
It's
feel like I'm
absolutely
losing my
disgusting.
mind.
Yeah. But luckily, we do have some people who try to speak truth to power, push back on the lies, including Saeed Arakat, the Palestinian-American journalist who's been on the show. He was a great guest. He's such a great, brave journalist. And here he is talking to another liar, State Department spokesperson Max Miller. Let's hear this exchange.
To Matt's point, the president of the United States of America went out and told the entire world Israel's conduct is over the top.
By the way, he called it over the top. Yeah. He called Israel's conduct over the top. He also said Hamas was over the top. The guy is so decrepit and lazy and limited in his faculties, he can probably only memorize one phrase a day. So he decided to go with over the top.
More times.
Go ahead. Sorry, guys. If you want to say something, please make a request, then raise your hand.
Over the top.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's over the top.
It's all over the top.
If it's over the top, what are you willing to do to make it go under the top?
We are going to engage with them on specific areas where we expect to see improvement.
What kind of improvement? I mean, we saw yesterday that they killed 120 people, maybe a lot more. We don't know how many injured and so on, or how many among the injured will end up dying and all these things. And you're saying that this is, what you said. You said that we've seen them bomb up, all throughout. Does that make it okay? Does that make it okay when everybody, including the Secretary of State, including the President of the United States of America, including many leaders in this country, have said, you should not attack Rafah, period, or you can attack it by air? Is that it?
We have always said that they can attack legitimate military targets. We want to see them take every step that they can to minimize civilian casualties. as I just said, we have seen civilian casualties come down, but as you and I have discussed many times in this room, Saeed, they face a very difficult situation in that Hamas continues to hide itself.
Oh, those poor Israelis, right? Those poor Israelis, they face such a difficult situation. Oh my goodness. Are you fucking kidding me? They cry out in pain as they genocide you. The Israelis face a difficult situation, Mr. Miller, Mr. Ashkenazim. 2% of the population, 2% of the population with 85% of the seats of power. Oh, it's a wonderful democracy we live in. Transparency, accountability. No. Everything's secret. Yep. Is there accountability? No. Is there any introspection? No. Any fucking committees to find out what happened about the discredited wars of the last 3 decades? No. Everybody gets a pass. Well, you think we're stupid, but we're not. We know what you're up to. We know whose dirty little fingers are in every pie. We understand. And that's why the more they hear us, they fear us.
Among the civilian population. If this was a war being fought on a battle.
By the way, Israel just used a Palestinian human shield. They always say that it's Hamas hiding a civilian population. They're in Gaza. Gaza is densely populated. That's where they live. And they can't get out thanks to Israel. It's not like they're choosing to be in this densely populated area. It's not like they have the option of launching things from some, I don't know,
using their second passport to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or just have it being allowed to travel to other parts of Palestine.
And I would also just interject that, taking him at his word, if civilian casualties are going down, probably because he killed them all.
Yeah, right. You've run out of them.
Yeah.
Right. 1% of Gaza has been killed. Yeah. Is it 1% of children or 1% Gazans?
I think 1% of Gazans. But
yeah. It's just unspeakable. But this is a talking point they love using, that it's not Israel's in such a hard place because Gaza
child, or it's been a bull.
You have a huge big magic wand, and that magic wand.
I'm glad you think it's a magic wand.
It is a magic wand, but it's real. It's substantive. It's a wand. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars that are approved to make this war keep on going. Well, in fact, we have seen reports from the United Nations of telling you are a shake away, man, from starvation in Gaza. Nothing is going into Rafah. No aid. None of this is going on. I mean, there's so many things that are going on at the same time that the United States can, in fact, use its magic.
Yeah, let's see this part 2 of this
conclusion. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Saeed, we have used a number of levers at our disposal, and that is why humanitarian assistance is going into Rafah. In fact, your contention is not true. There were nearly 200 trucks that are going into Gaza. There are nearly 200 trucks of humanitarian assistance that went into Gaza yesterday.
Let me just interject, and please, I could be mistaken, but my understanding is prior to this, what is currently going on, prior to this, it required at least 500 trucks a day going into Gaza just to sustain the population at a bare minimum starvation level.
You mean before, just under the siege, before the war, before October 7th?
Correct.
So he's bragging about 200 trucks that went in yesterday. Well, as he said, that's not even half of what they need. And how about the day before, or the day before that, or the day before that, or tomorrow? There are plenty of days where nothing goes in because these fucking radical, savage, fucking, I don't know what you call them, settlers are strewn across the road as human shields to prevent life-saving food and medicine from going in. The same people that treat a Gaza bombing like a Super Bowl party and have a barbecue and set up their fucking beach chairs and play volleyball and revel and celebrate in the fucking slaughter. In what fucking world are the good guys the people perpetrating a genocide? In what fucking universe is that? I'm all ears. Let me know, chat. AX, hello. Guys, if you want to speak, you gotta.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Albert?
Welcome. Hello.
Hello, Albert.
On that last
Guys, you have to keep your powder keg dry. If I turn your mic on, we'll get a go in order, okay? So let's go. Let's let AX go, and then Hope, you'll be next. Go ahead.
Thank you, Albert. Huge fan. I just wanted to say I have some Jewish friends who are horrified by this, but their official left, I don't trust as much as their right, because their left just tries to mitigate damages. They're just that's what because if I remember Chomsky and Finkelstein were against the BDS movement. They were the biggest critics. So now again, this is not all of them. This is not all the people of that ethnicity, but like I say, I have friends who are horrified by these things, and they're wonderful people. But the official left, I think, I just don't trust them as much as their right wing. Just my 2 cents. I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because I think anyways, that's it. But thank you very much for your time, Albert. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Go ahead, Hope. Hello.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dr. Hope Kelman. Hi, everybody. I kind of want.
Dr.
Hi.
Kelman, hello.
I want to cry this morning. I live with a filmmaker, and I just was like, I want to cry. I texted about the women being shot in the vagina and their breasts being cut off, and
but that didn't happen. That's atrocity propaganda.
Okay.
And this is the thing. This is why we believe nothing that comes from the Zionist state or the Zionist.
Okay, all right. I mean, you're anti-Zionist, right?
I'm anti-evil.
Okay, well, let me just share what I want to share about, okay? Because I don't mind you.
Listen to me. If you're gonna push debunked atrocity propaganda,
no, I'm not. I'm not going to. Okay, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the International Criminal Court and my role in developing it in the United Nations and where the court is going right now. And I'm going to talk about the genocide of hate that's a collective issue right now that we are in, and that we're 90 seconds from nuclear destruction. That's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the fact that neither side of the hate coin is going to find a way for the solution.
Hold on a second, Doctor. You can't equate a reactionary force against oppression and genocide as on the same level. Okay, we want to end this horrific reality of mass slaughter on an industrial scale, and it's a false equivalency. Okay, you can't blame the victims.
One way to end it is to silence the male. The males need to manage. And listen, I've spent 20 years inside the United Nations on peacekeeping. Clearly, it didn't work. Clearly, there's no peacekeeping going on right now.
And why didn't it work?
Well, there's a number of reasons why.
Who is in
I was National Council of Women of the United States representative to the UN.
Of dozens of UN resolutions. Who is a rogue state?
Well, the U.S. fortunately did not sign on to the court because the court is fucked.
I'm not talking about the court. I'm talking about UN resolutions. Who is in contravention of dozens of UN resolutions that to this day is thumbing their nose at international law? I'm still here, Doctor. I'm still here. I guess she bailed. Well, it's nice when we have an illustrative member of the UN who can't answer a simple question. You understand that you cannot come in here and think that we're going to play in your sandbox and allow you to parrot and regurgitate debunked atrocity propaganda like the evil ginger goblin on Piers Morgan. Dr. Rabbi Shmuley Moteak, Baruch Hashem. Isn't that pathetic? Isn't that pathetic that we had a woman of such standing that could not even answer a simple question with all her bona fides and credentials? It's stunning. It's stunning. Oh, you're not going to let me do my propaganda piece for the Zionist state? You're not going to let me blame and smear the victims? No, I'm not. It's not how it works. You're going to get called out on your bullshit in real time, lady. It is at this point, my friends, where we have people of standing calling into this space, the most suppressed sabotage space on this kosher platform. Ordeon. Oh! Go ahead, Ordeon. The doctor couldn't take the heat, so she had to get out of the kitchen.
Thank you, sir. I didn't get all that stuff. I'm sorry, sir. But I would like to say, if possible, what I said earlier. How for our Muslim friends, how do we get together? What can we? I think this is a very important point that I have been dwelling on and that I have thought upon. And I hear what you're saying with this lady. I'm sorry I didn't catch. Maybe I interrupted and did something wrong in this point.
But, no, you didn't interrupt. She just fucking bailed out. I asked her a simple question, then she didn't want to answer, and she was spouting they're shooting the women in the vagina. Like,
what the fuck? What?
Yeah, you didn't hear that?
No, I didn't catch that. Okay. But so what do you? But okay, so I'll maybe ask this question later to our Muslim friends. What can we do? What, in your belief, in your
all that you can? What can you do? All that you can.
All that you can, and all that you believe. What? Yeah. How can we? What, in your belief? How can we come together the way that you view us as maybe you are okay? Do you feel that you're Ishmael? And do you feel that we are Edom?
Do I feel like I'm Ishmael and you are Edom? No. Why would I feel like that? That's you want me to get into the kosher sandbox? I'm a free human. Are you a free human, Oryan?
Yeah, no, I'm not asking you the question. I'm posing the question to the possible Muslims, or how, from what my understanding of how all this is put together, how we are in the Western world, we're Edom and you are Ishmael, but how can we come together? What's our common understanding, other than if you say that you have to submit to Allah? There's submission, that's the only. But is there, for our Muslim friends, you that know the texts the most, what can please
all right,
explain?
so you know what we need to do? You know what we need to do? We need to get a Muslim scholar on here. I know there's a couple that have checked out, that have been actually checked into the space. So that's what you need. We need to get a Muslim scholar here to address this question that you've had for the last couple of days. Yeah, that's what we need, because that you're looking for a theological answer, correct?
Yes, sir. Just how, is there some way that we can fit together, or is there some common denominator for us to, whatever.
The common denominator is humanity, right? And as long as we don't negatively impact each other, live and let live. And I don't care what anyone believes. Like, I'm not here trying to deconvert Christians, Muslims, or Jews. If you want to play in that sandbox, it's your right. If it's a system, a construct that you can live a productive life through, go ahead. Do whatever you want. I'm a libertarian, not in the political sense, but I believe in personal freedom. That's it.
Right. And then what is, I mean, is there a situation in, because I believe what you just described, Albert, I believe that, I mean, that's how I grew up. I grew up with people just every day. And then how do you believe in this stuff? What your religious conviction? Is there something in these texts?
Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this.
The Talmud refers to Gentiles as no better than soulless animals that deserve no consideration. If you're alarmed by that, look it up. The Talmud is the rabbis interpreting the mind of God. Jewish law. It's replete with long tracts of venom and odium for Gentiles or non-Jews. It teaches Jewish supremacy, which has morphed into Zionism, which is political Talmud without the religious baggage. In short, Jews used, abused, corrupted, and influenced peddled everywhere they went. Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice depicts the odious Jew as the character of Shylock. He's become a trope for Jewish money lending. America is the latest society to be corrupted by Jewish influences, finance, culture, and values. Abortion is a Jewish value. It's why they defend it so vociferously. America now has a Zionist-occupied government where less than 2% of the American population, which are Jewish, occupy 85% of senior cabinet and secretary positions in government. It has nothing to do with aptitude or intelligence and everything to do with nepotism and Jews looking out for other Jews to dominate communities, commerce, academia, and entertainment. When this is pointed out to Jews, they deny, and invoke charges of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust to neutralize Jewish critics who point out the obvious. The standard Jewish comeback is that it's all a coincidence, and correlation does not mean causation. Even if you point out that the Ivy League schools largely have Jewish presidents, chancellors, or principals, and therefore the majority of admissions are Jewish, they deny it. It's gaslighting. All in your anti-Semitic imagination, despite the facts. It's the ire of communities that eventually have enough of predatory Jewish nature and kick them out. Every major Jewish holiday is about killing and the slaughter of non-Jews. They celebrate death, whereas Christians and even Muslims celebrate life. And herein is the number one reason why Jews have been expelled over and over for over 2,000 years. The relentless slaughter of civilians in Gaza is Jewish natural behavior. Vengeance is a Jewish trait. The Talmud is full of it. This time the world...
Yep. Survey detects no lies, right? So I think that's where you got to keep the focus on, my man Aryan, right? You pick your battles, right?
Yes, sir.
Practice an economy of enemies. We face an existential threat, not from Islam, but from those who cannot speak of, those who cannot be named, the ones that are changing the demographics of your country.
But
right?
sir, that's
making it unrecognizable. Go ahead.
That's why I'm asking the question, though, is, for our Muslim brothers, if you could just tell us if you have an answer to how we can resolve this thing and come together and understand each other, where it's not you just have to subjugate yourself to whatever the thing is, but we can see what's happening for example, listen, in Israel, they are pulling children apart. They are pulling children apart. What can we do? Please talk to me. Just say something to me. Can we have a discussion on how we can agree to what I get that you believe something, I believe another thing. How can we agree? And then, because what is happening now is so disturbing. So that's my summary. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If there's a Muslim scholar in there, that wants to take this on, let's go to chat. Hello.
Hey, good morning, guys. No offense when I say this, Orihan, but I don't know if your question is as profound as you think it is. I mean, you keep asking this thing. How can we resolve this thing? What is this thing you're talking about? Are you implying that Muslims are trying to discriminate against Christians or cannot live with Christians? This is just ahistorical. There has been plenty of Muslims and Christians living in the Middle East prior to the Zionist state. I mean, I'm just confused on your question. You're not really explaining it well.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Can you hear me? Can you just confirm that you hear me?
I hear you.
All right. No, so this is, I guess you would call it an analysis of what is happening in the world. I grew up with Muslim people, so I kind of understand and have some insight. I don't hate anybody. I don't have negative sentiments against any certain of people. And for me, it seems more like, can we get together? Can we have a common agreement on who is there a common enemy here that is doing so horrible things in the world that we can agree on? And
Dude, yes, this is the whole point of the space here.
All right.
I think what you might be doing is finding a problem that doesn't exist, or finding an issue that's not really there.
Me?
Yeah, you keep trying to say how can we get together? We're together. What do you mean? How can we get together? Aren't we here? Aren't we engaged in the same fight?
Okay. All right.
I mean, I don't know. You tell me.
No, this is a great point. This is sharpening my. No, okay. But
I think you're under the impression that, Muslims and Christians cannot work together because of some underlying hatred towards each other. I mean, we both have this common enemy, and this is what this space is here for. We're on Twitter, we're discussing these problems, we're trying to resolve these problems, spread the word. And I mean, I've been in countless spaces with Muslims and Christians who get along perfectly. So, there's absolutely room for all of us to work together.
Okay. And it's not like we don't have a historical background where Muslims and Christians coexisted. It's not like that, and Jews for that matter. There is a historical record of that. It's just that when there's also a lot that's obfuscated and that's distorted, and there's a lot of revisionism to show. Look, we have a tribist problem. Everybody can come together around that. Right. And then, like anything else, the first thing in addressing a problem is identifying it and isolating it. That's what we're trying to do here.
But could I, sir?
Yeah, you don't have to call me sir, bro. Just call me, Bert. Call me.
All right, Bert.
Don't call me sir.
No, it's just instinctual thing. Sorry. No, but so this is. I guess I'm just slow or late to the party, or trying to get oversight of how we feel on these issues. How collectively is there a consensus of this issue? And I have been in here from the beginning, and I just maybe a little unclear on these things.
You don't think we have a consensus against fighting this enemy?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right? We're getting along. We're moving the ball. I mean, like I said, the wind is at our backs. Every day they lose support. Every fucking day they're hemorrhaging support.
But Al,
yeah, hold on a second. I'll give you as much time as you need.
Thank you.
Every hour in Gaza, 15 people are killed, 6 are children, 35 people are injured, 42 bombs are dropped, 12 buildings are destroyed, 36,000 dead, 13,000 of them children. That's 1.7 million refugees, 360,000 residential units destroyed or damaged, 69,000 injured, 36,000 dead. That's over 100,000 people in 4.5 months. Go ahead, guys. You guys want to wrap this up and we can continue?
No, you're good. Continue, sir.
Chat, you good?
Yeah, I mean, just my thoughts. I mean, and I don't mean to pick on you, Orhan. I mean, I know you're from Norway. I think, you know, the Zionist propaganda is so strong that they have, you know, inherently made enemies of Christians and Muslims. Okay, you know, we could get along easily, and the reason why you're seeing this demographic change in Europe and all the country is because of Zionism. I mean, you have America dropping bombs on the Middle East for 20 straight years, and then you have a refugee crisis. Who does this benefit? Israel. So yes, of course we could come along together. We don't have to hate anyone specifically, any group specifically. I mean, this is just we have to see through this Zionist paradigm. You know, this is something that's important.
You're anti-Zionist, aren't you? You're anti-Jewish. No, I'm anti-evil. That's it. You know, it's no vice to hate evil, folks. It's actually a virtue. And no, I don't subscribe to this slave theology of loving my enemies. What kind of a fucking moron loves his enemies? A slave? This slave mentality does not wash. Let's go back to it. Oh man, are you kidding me?
Israeli.
Wait a second. Sorry, guys.
Would be 500 trucks a day just then. So, you know, you're
Right.
saying 200 trucks now.
Right,
That's
exactly right.
That's not even what it was.
Yeah, you're just
prior.
saying it's way insufficient. Yeah.
Beyond.
Day. If we want to go back to the beginning, it is because of the intervention of the United States that humanitarian assistance is going in.
It's because of the United States. Imagine that.
The Secretary was there last week. He raised directly with the Prime Minister that we want to see Aryans crossing open. So that
Who's playing both sides?
and
Hold
it
on a
is that
second.
repeated, sustained engagement that we have shown over time has delivered results, and it's why we'll continue to stay engaged.
Do you expect, lastly, do you expect that Director Burns is meeting tomorrow?
So it's because of us that the aid is coming in, and we're facilitating the aid while simultaneously facilitating the genocide. Isn't that awesome? Who's playing both sides?
Schedule a meeting tomorrow in Cairo. Will produce anything? What is the feeling in this building on the ongoing discussion?
So first of all, I'm going to look around and remind everyone that I'm the spokesperson for the State
Yes,
Department,
absolutely.
not any other agency. So I'm not going to speak to the travel of
You're the highest government spokesman.
members of other agencies in the government. I will say that generally, as it relates to engagement over the release of hostages, you heard the Secretary speak to this and say that we think progress can be made. There were a number of really untenable items.
So it's colonial. It was a colonial, settler colonial project. Who got what out of that? And how does that shape the present moment?
I think all you have to do is look at what's happening in the West Bank or occupied Arab East Jerusalem, where under cover of the war, a whole bunch of thousands of new residential units are going to be established, Israeli only, Jewish only, on land that's either being confiscated or has questionable status. That's a colonial settler project that's ongoing in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. Indeed, there are responsible ministers in the Israeli government who are talking about recommencing the settlement of the Gaza Strip on Arab land again. So I don't think you even have to look back at the Jewish Colonization Agency, which was wound up in 1958, or the self-described settler colonial nature of the early Zionist project, to see that land acquisition and changing the demography balance in favor of a Jewish majority from what was originally up until 1948 an Arab majority, which are the landmarks of a settler colonial regime, have always been there. They are there now. They have always been there, and that was understood certainly before World War II by all concerned. So it's the nature of that whole project is and has always been Jabotinsky, you mentioned Jabotinsky. Jabotinsky said, what we're trying to do is transform Palestine into the land of Israel, and that means land, and that means people, and that was always one of its values.
What were the advantages for the British and then for the United States as they kind of enabled this colonialism?
Right. Well, the British had a whole set of strategic objectives. Palestine lies to the east of Egypt. Egypt had the Suez Canal. It was vital to the empire. It was the connection to the East Asian Empire, to its Indian Empire, to its East African Empire. So Egypt was vital. And early in the 20th century, the British decided they had to control Palestine because it protected the eastern flank. That's a decision that they took in 1905, 1906. And that had nothing to do with Zionism. That's the primary motive for Britain's desire to control Palestine. They then began to think about the importance of controlling the shortest land route between the Mediterranean and
how he could not mention the Balfour Declaration in 1917 is kind of suspect.
And Palestine is the Mediterranean.
Although I like Rashid Khalidi very much.
A whole series of air bases and then roads and then a pipeline along that land route. So Palestine was important strategically to the empire, and that's why they wanted it. They came upon several additional reasons for supporting Zionism. One of them was, in the words of a British colonial official, Sir Ronald Stores, to create a little Jewish Ulster in a sea of hostile Arabs. And if you think of the British in Ireland, and you think of, from Cornwall onwards, replacement and what they call the plantation of loyal British subjects in hostile Catholic Ireland. That's what in these Stores' mind Britain was up to. And I can't imagine that wasn't in the minds of people like Lord Balfour, Winston Churchill.
Good job, Rashid.
All of whom were engaged in fighting the Irish at the very same time that they were issuing the Balfour Declaration and producing the mandate for Palestine. So it's essentially strategic, in my view, strategic interests. There are others. There's what you'd call today Christian Zionism, a sort of evangelical connection to the idea that the return of it's a Christian
Freemasonry
to be returned to their ancestral homeland for reasons that have nothing to do with the Jews, it has to do with the coming of the Messiah and so on. So,
in fact, a lot of people have to die or convert.
Yeah, you all would disappear. We all would disappear, and only those who are saved. Those ideas are developing in the early 19th century. Lord Shaftesbury and a bunch of other very influential people, and the evangelical elements in the Anglican Church were really into that. And it's persistent. We have it today in American politics, in the American evangelical fealty to Israel. For these eschatological crazy reasons, I would see them as crazy. But anyway. So that's another motivation. Yet another motivation is, I would argue, anti-Semitism. In other words, the same individual who issued the Balfour Declaration in his capacity as Foreign Secretary in 1917 is the Prime Minister who's responsible for the Alien Exclusion Acts, which kept persecuted Jews fleeing the pogroms of the Russian Empire from entering Britain in 1905, 1906. It's passed in 1905, comes along in 1906.
That's because they didn't want them going anywhere but Palestine. The two big, well, they let them go to America, right? Because they wanted to build a base of support within America. The two major immigration flows were to New York and Palestine.
And that's the same guy, Balfour. He's Prime Minister in 1905 and 1906. He's Foreign Secretary by 1917. So there's a mix of motivations. Some people, overemphasize, in my view, the Christian Zionism or anti-Semitism or other wartime objectives. If we do this, all the Jews in the world will support the Allied war effort. I don't think those were important. They were there. There were certain motivations. The major reason for Britain doing what it does is always strategic and in the interest of the empire. And that's why they wanted Palestine. And for them, Zionism was a convenient way to do that.
And for the United States?
Well, with the United States, it starts off, I would argue, with evangelical Christian Zionism. That's what drives, I think, Woodrow Wilson. Also a colonial worldview. He was an old-fashioned white supremacist Southern racist. He looked down on the inferior peoples below, as did the British of that era, most of them. Certainly British ruling class. Churchill and Balfour are notorious for some of those kinds of statements they made. And we know about Woodrow Wilson today. So that was what it was initially. There was no particular strategic interest involved. It's only much later, when the United States becomes a Middle Eastern power after World War II, that the United States begins to think of Israel after its establishment, or the establishment of Israel in 1947, 48, as a strategic interest. That's much later. But American support is not that important. We'll see the support of it in the peace conference in 1919 on Zionism. But, the most important thing is the British position.
Right. And then, of course, the American support becomes central.
Absolutely. I mean, without American support, you would not have had a partition resolution. The Soviets are also involved, but the Americans brought many more votes to that General Assembly majority than the Soviets. Soviets brought 4 or 5 votes. The Americans brought dozens.
And so at that point, what is America hoping to get out of its support of Israel?
Well, I would argue you have a couple of the same kind of motivations that you find at the time of the Balfour Declaration in Britain. Philo-Semitism and support for Zionism out of Christian, sort of sense of a Christian obligation to return the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland. Anti-Semitism that kept American immigration law anti-Semitic and anti-Arab and anti-Catholic and so on from the 1920s right up until the 1960s. In other words, we don't want them here. When populations in Europe that were suffering persecution could still, Jewish populations in Europe that were suffering persecution and that could still have been saved, were trying to find a place of refuge. They couldn't come to the United States or Britain for that matter because of racist, anti-Semitic, British and American immigration laws. So there was a sense of guilt for what happened during the Holocaust. The United States might not have been able to prevent it, but before World War II, the United States could certainly have saved many people, and did not. Roosevelt wouldn't.
That's true. The immigration, the massive immigration came in the late 19th century, like between late 1800s and like and the start of World War I, right? The two major waves because of the pogroms, right? And we know what the context behind that was. Was there legitimate anti-Semitism? Yeah, there was. Was it also ginned up? Yeah, it was. Was it also used as part of their plan? Yes, it was.
Proven wouldn't change American immigration. And then I think you have finally a sense of guilt about the Holocaust generally, and a sense that the Jewish people deserve something from Christian Europe and from the United States, which had failed to do more to prevent it. That this was done at the expense of the Arabs was
right.
a tertiary consideration, if it was a consideration at all.
Right.
Going back to the history, you of course have a very fascinating connection to this story. Can you talk about your great uncle?
He's an interesting guy, man.
Sure. Yusuf Zia was a very unusual character for his time. He had a traditional Muslim religious education. His father was a senior official in the Sharia court in Jerusalem, and his grandfather had held that position. So he came from a long line of judges and religious officials that had a classical Islamic training, and he went and got a Western education in Malta, and then in Istanbul, and in other places, and finally in Austria, in Vienna, where he studied at the Royal Imperial University. And he served in a variety of positions, diplomatic and governmental in the Ottoman government, but then he was elected to the first Ottoman parliament in 1877 as a deputy for Jerusalem. So he had served as a deputy for Jerusalem in the Ottoman parliament, and he later on became mayor of Jerusalem in the 1880s, late 1870s, 1880s. And he was very well acquainted, and at different times when he fell into disfavor with the Ottoman regime, he went to Austria and Austria-Hungary, Habsburg Empire, and taught at the university where he'd studied, the Royal Imperial University. So he knew a great deal about European anti-Semitism. He'd studied Judaism. We have his books in the family library, so we know what he read. We have his correspondence. We know from his writings to European Orientalists and to others a lot about his mindset and what he knew. And he knew about Zionism. We have copies of Austrian papers that he was receiving. So he writes to Theodor Herzl in 1899, 2 years after the first Zionist Congress takes place in Basel, in Switzerland. And he says to him, first of all, that we and the first Zionist Congress takes place in Basel, in Switzerland. And he says to him, first of all, that we and Muslims and Jews are cousins. We're both children of Abraham, and we very much, and we understand the connection between Judaism and the Jewish people and Palestine. And he said, we understand that I understand the degree to which your people are being persecuted in Europe. He lived in a capital, Vienna, whose mayor, a guy called Karl Neuger, was a fanatical Antisemite. There's, by the way, still a statue of this character around the Ringstrasse in Vienna.
He was one of Hitler's heroes, right?
I believe he was. Yeah, Neuger is a horrific figure. There's still a statue of him in Vienna.
See, I know they're Austrian, but Germans and Austrians focus on that, clean that up instead of trying to make Palestinians pay for your crimes. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, just a suggestion. I mean, take the statue down or hang something around his neck. Yeah. Dedicated anti-Semite. That's fine. Anyway, so he knew about anti-Semitism, and he says this in his letter to Herzl. And he says, I understand that he probably read accounts of the Zionist Congress in German, uncensored. He may have read other writings, probably had read other writings of Herzl's. We don't know exactly what but he knew a lot about it. It seems like he knew a lot about Zionism. I mean, he said, the idea of Zionism in principle is fine. You're a people, you want to see yourself as a modern nationalist. No problem in principle. He says, the problem is here. If you do it here, there's a people who's already here. You have problems in terms of what dual loyalties for Jews all over the Ottoman Empire. You can have problems with the Ottoman Empire, but you can have problems with us, with the people of the population that won't be superseded. And he ends that part of the letter by saying, for the sake of God, leave Palestine alone. So that's Yusuf Zia al-Khadji. He's an interesting figure, one of the earliest Palestinians to foresee the problem that was to come.
Did immigration laws change after the Holocaust in the United States and Europe?
No, not in the United States until I think Lyndon Johnson passed a much more liberal immigration law, I think 1964.
So you think that would also be a way that people could have dealt with some of the guilt?
You would think. But better to shove it off somewhere else. I mean, I think that the same kind of philo-Semitism / anti-Semitism that you had with Balfour himself may have operated in the case of the United States. I'm an American historian. I've studied Britain extensively. My first book was about British policy. And you had to learn about that, the mindset of that aristocracy that ran Britain in those days. So I think both things were there definitely with the British. I would guess they were there with American Indians. I mean, we know that anti-Semitism was deep-seated in this country. We know that the Ku Klux Klan hanged Jews and Arabs along with mainly black people. We know that American universities were discriminatory. We all had a tiny quota for Jews. My university, Harvard, all of them. Certainly all of the Ivy League schools. So that's there for sure as a motivation for keeping. There's also Protestant bias, keeping Catholics out. I mean, this was meant that the immigration laws of the early 20s were not just meant to keep Jews or Arabs out, or Chinese or Asians. They were meant to keep Southern European Catholics out, and only allow Nordic Protestants, white, blonde Nordic Protestants into the United States. That was the motivation behind the laws of the immigration laws of the mid-1920s.
And can you talk about, speaking of the kind of marriage between anti-Semitism and philo-Semitism, can you talk about the relationship or the occasional collaboration between the Nazis and the Zionists?
Yeah, well, it was a transactional arrangement. I mean, in the case of a very limited number of extremists who were sort of neo-fascist people in the Stern gang, to some extent the Urban, and who were attracted by fascist ideas. It was transactional in the main, in that there was a desire to increase the Jewish population of Palestine during the 90s. And there was a German desire to get rid of Jews.
Right.
The actual Holocaust, the actual murder of all these people was only planned and executed during World War II. We're talking about the 30s, before the war starts. When, as far as the Germans are concerned, getting rid of their Jewish problem means getting the Jews out of Germany. And anybody who would have taken them, they would have gladly sent them there. And the Jewish Agency, by something called the Transfer Agreement, arranged for German Jews to not just be allowed to leave and come to Palestine, but to take some of their assets with them. So you got, on the one hand, from the Nazi perspective, Jews out of Germany, and from the perspective of the Jewish Agency, which is the mainstream, Ben Gurion-led, Chaim Weizmann-led body that the British had created and recognized as the sort of quasi-state of the Zionist movement in Palestine. From the point of view of the Jewish Agency, you were getting not just highly qualified, highly educated, talented, skilled immigrants, you were getting capital. So the capital inflows in the 1930s were amazing to Palestine, partly as a result. And the population shift is dramatic. The Jewish population as a proportion of the whole is 17 or 18% in 1929, 30, 31, 32. And then starting with the rise of Hitler, it just shoots up. In 1935, you have 60,000 Jewish immigrants. It's actually more than 60,000. The official figure of 60 is probably 62, 3, 4, 5. That's as much as the entire Jewish population of Palestine in 1917. And so the proportion the Jewish proportion of the total population rises from 17 or 18% to 31% by the time World War II breaks out. This is dramatic shit. Ben Gurion writes in his diaries, at this rate, we'll have a Jewish majority and we'll have a Jewish state. We don't have to do anything. We're not supposed to. So, I mean, this is really very, very important for understanding Palestinian history, not just understanding the history of the issue of Zionism in Israel.
Right. What is your relationship like with Palestine today in terms of visiting or friends and family and colleagues there? What is your sense of what people are experiencing there right now?
I mean, I haven't been there since, March of last year. I haven't been there for 10 months. I have family there. I have lots of friends there. I work with people, mainly based in Ramallah and in Jerusalem. And in Haifa, actually, also. I gave a talk up in Haifa in last March. What's my sense of the situation there?
Or your sense of how people are experiencing it? What are they reporting to you to the extent that you can be in contact? I mean, I'm assuming in Gaza, if you have contacts there, it's hard to be in touch with them. But
it's very hard to be in touch. My niece, who lives in Ramallah, is married to someone from Gaza. All of his family are there, and who've moved around 5 or 6 times. It's very hard to get in touch with them. She sends us reports when they can, charge their phones, when there's internet, when they can contact the outside world, which is sometimes only once a week.
Sick, man. Sick.
The situation is appalling. They're all
appalling. Doesn't begin to describe it. Guys, get in the queue now. Make a request. When we're done with this Rashid Khalidi piece, we're gonna open up the phone lines for your participation. As the Talmud tells us, the older will serve the younger.
Cold, trying to find fuel, trying to find water, trying to find food. Several of them are musicians, so they're playing for refugee children, one of the camps in Malassi. The families in different places, in the central and southern parts of Gaza. Some are in Rafah, some are in Malassi. They're in different places. We're talking about an extended family of 6 or 8 people. I think they're in a couple of places right now. It's awful. The situation is unspeakable. These are, middle-class people with a comfortable house in Gaza City. They had to leave it multiple times. They moved around, and now they're probably, maybe having to move yet again. So I hear from them via my niece, and I hear from my brother, my niece, my nephew, my various family members about the situation in Jerusalem and the West Bank, which is pretty dire as well. Not anything like the horrors of Gaza, but pretty dire.
And I know that I ran into you, and you had told me something about sending your books.
Yeah. I had been sending books for many, many months, a couple hundred maybe, to something that was established by a poet called Musab al-Taha. Some of your listeners may have heard of, and who just managed to get out of Gaza. And he established the Edward Said Library in Gaza. And I think by the time the war started, he had established a couple of branches of it. And I had sent a couple of hundred books, as did, by the way, several of my colleagues here at Columbia, who knew him, to this library. The library has now been, as far as I know, destroyed, along with pretty much every other library in the Gaza Strip, along with every other university in the Gaza Strip, along with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of university personnel, 2 university presidents, a half dozen university deans, dozens of faculty and staff, and God knows how many students. As well, unfortunately, as the librarian, the woman who was in charge of it. She was killed in an airstrike that took.
Can you believe this? Can you believe this? They target librarians, academicians, administrators, deans, college presidents, and their families are targeted for, what do they call it? Liquidation. And you got the balls to say that there isn't a genocide going on. You're trying to erase the Palestinian people. You're trying to blot out the memory of the Palestinians. It's full erasure. Nothing short. And you want to pretend that these are the good guys. It's fucking laughable.
So that's the story of the Edward Said Library. I don't know what of it remains. I don't know how badly damaged it was. I can't. He doesn't answer. He won't. No.
Dr. Khalidi. Yeah, the good guys bomb and destroy hospitals, libraries, ambulances, UN fucking schools. Right. Only in kosher clown world, folks, are the good guys doing that.
I don't know exactly what happened. Library, my understanding is that it's having destroyed. But that's only books. That will never come back, but the books.
What does it feel like? I mean, I don't know if you can even put it into words, but you're this incredibly respected, established historian at Columbia, and yet the people from whom you come are treated as disposable by the Israelis, but also by the enabling of their own government. What is it? Is there a disconnect between the way you're treated as an academic and the way you're seen as a Palestinian whose life doesn't matter in some ways? Like if you were there in Palestine now instead of here, right, you would just be
targeted.
Damaged.
If Dr. Khalidi was in Palestine, if he was in Gaza, he would have probably been dead 3.5 months ago.
In Gaza, yes.
Yeah.
That would be the case. And even in the West Bank, life is more precarious than elsewhere. What does it feel like? It's very alienating, especially on the part of our own government. I mean, Israel, you have a separate colonial process that's been marching on for generations, for more than a century. It's what we know. Palestinian life is not valued. The tragic thing is that Palestinian life is not valued in this country or by our media or by our government. When I say in this country, not by everybody, but by certainly our elites and by the New York Times. I could go on and on about the media, the mainstream corporate legacy. Even by our university administration. We have here the only Center for Palestine Studies in the United States. We have here 2 dozen faculty who are experts in what they do. Some of them experts on Zionism, some of them experts on anti-Semitism, some of them experts on Palestine. None of whom were ever consulted by the university or takes measures, such as a letter from some dean saying that these specific sets of words, intifada, by all means necessary, harmful and hurtful and anti-Semitic and so on and so forth, without anybody asking anybody who knows about anti-Semitism. They created a task force made up of 3 of the most, headed, I should say, by 3 of the most committed partisans for Israel in the entire faculty, which is supposed to deal with anti-Semitism. Most of the members don't know anything about anti-Semitism. And we actually have a lot of people, faculty members, whose specialty is, among other things, anti-Semitism. I mean, a couple of them were included, but most of the people there are chosen for obviously other reasons. So it feels alienating. I don't feel that from my own colleagues. I certainly don't feel that from students. I don't feel that from my readers, people who write me about my books. But certainly from our government, from the media, it's horrific to know what the reality is, and to know the lying disinformation that passes for reality on television, on NPR, in the Times, and the Post, or from our university administration, and most of them are no different. Congress, I could go on. It's extremely alienating.
What are some of the myths, lies, inaccuracies that are most frustrating for you to hear from the media or your administration or Congress?
Well, I mean, let's just take a term like intifada. Intifada means rising up, shaking off. In Palestinian political parlance, it's used to describe the 2 major uprisings against an illegal Israeli military occupation, which in 1987 had been going on for 20 years, and which in 2000, during the second Intifada started, had been going on for 33 years, and which has now been going on for 56 years. And if anything is legitimate, it's an uprising against an illegal military occupation, condemned by international law, the United Nations, and so on and so forth. But this has turned into a call for genocide in the twisted minds of the people who tell us what we can say and can't say on campus, or the partisan hacks in Congress who decreed that there was a call for genocide at Harvard and Wyden President.
See, when they can weaponize language and use censorship and say you can't say intifada because that's hateful and anti-Semitic, when all it is a legitimate resistance to an illegal occupation, it's fucking laughable. It's clown world. And this is what we're subjected to.
Nobody called for genocide. That's not what that word means. It doesn't mean genocide. It means uprising. Uprising against what? Uprising against the Jewish people? No. Uprising against an illegal military occupation, which has now gone on for 56 years. In June, it will be 57 years. So that's a typical example of the way this thing has been twisted. And that's if you ask 200 odd Republican members of Congress in lockstep, like lemmings, they will say, yes, intifada means genocide. And I bet a whole lot of Democrats would go along with it. So that's a typical example. I could give you many others.
And in terms of media narratives that you find particularly damaging or dangerous or untruthful?
Well, a number of them. I don't know where to start. One would be that the history started on the 7th of October.
Right.
Something dramatic, something in many ways unprecedented, something horrific happened on the 7th of October, and things considerably more horrific have been happening ever since. Whatever happened on October 7th was a horrific, horrible massacre of civilians, largest civilian death toll in Israeli history since 1948. So it deserved all of the attention it got. But 25 times as many Palestinians have been killed as Israelis were killed on the 7th of October, or immediately after.
But that's not enough, because one Jewish thumb is worth 1 million Gentile lives, Dr. Khalidi. Don't you know that? Aren't you aware of this fact?
And that does not get the same attention. 25 times as many. 29,000 and 8,000 missing. 29,000 dead and 8,000 missing. Most of them are civilians. 12,000 of them are children.
That's up to 13,000, by the way.
So the 68,000 wounded.
This was a week ago.
8,000 dead, 8,000 missing include a large proportion of children, maybe half, maybe a third, and then a lot of both and civilians. None of this is treated with the kind of loving, individuated attention that is given right to Israeli victims. So, you know, one is aghast at the racism, at the inherent disparity between the loving way in which Israeli children, Israeli women, civilians are treated and the callous way in which 25 times as many Palestinians, most of whom, again, as with the Israelis, most of whom are civilians, are not treated. They're just lumped. If they accurately give the number, which the New York Times systematically did not do for weeks and weeks and months, if they give the number, it's just a number. You know, they're like 29,000 cockroaches, 29,000 whatever. Whereas, as I've said, other losses are individuated. We've gotten this before. I mean, it's not unfamiliar to anyone who looks at the coverage of the Iraqi American soldiers. Their deaths are individuated. The multiple, many times greater number of Iraqi civilian deaths are rarely taught today. The same was the same in Vietnam and so forth. That's the way it is in colonial wars. And this is a colonial war.
How so?
When you listen to Israeli politicians saying we're going to resettle Gaza and we're going to occupy Gaza, what is that? What is that? It may be the land of Israel in their fantasies, in their imagination, but it's one people taking over the land of other people, which is what the whole business was about from Herzl to today. As Zev Jabotinsky said, the objective is to transform Palestine into the land of Israel, and that's what has been done systematically ever since.
What are your feelings about, well, I've heard you speak very passionately about Biden.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of him? I've heard you say that you wouldn't vote for him. Why? What do you think motivates him?
What motivates Joseph Biden? Well, I don't know. I don't know him. I know what I read, and I know. I mean, you know, I'm a trained historian. I read text, so I can watch the body language, and I can read the statement. That's best I can do. And from that evidence, I would say several things. The first is that this is a man who still lives in the 60s. As far as he's concerned, this idealized vision of Israel is Israel. The second thing I could say is he's someone who has clearly been brainwashed by the Israeli politicians and the lobbyists who have focused on him.
Boom. So the whole Herzl to Jabotinsky to the Stern Gang, Lord Rothschild, right? The Balfour Declaration, 1919 Paris Peace Conference, 100 117 Jewish delegates representing world Jewry. Now, do I need to remind you, in 1917 there was no Israel, but yet there were 117 Jewish delegates at the Paris Peace Conference. What do you think they were doing there? You don't think they were laying down the groundwork for this Zionist agenda, this colonial enterprise, facilitated by the Rothschilds, evangelical Christians, Freemasonry, and all their other various tentacles and surrogates? Of course it was. Of course it was. Luke McGee, hello. Luke, hello. Go ahead, Luke. You have to speak.
Okay. I just woke up and I'm actually a bit spooked. You know, I'm an IT guy, right? I built my whole Android phone from bloody source code. You know, Lineage OS takes about a bloody week on a Hasbro. Why am I telling you this? I'm not delusional. I've just seen all the instant messages on Twitter be deleted, except the messages which haven't been read by the other party, or messages that have failed to send and it gave you the option to retry. But all other messages to my long lost source on the Ordo Templi Orientis have just been deleted, including his own personal story about being stalked by Stephen King. And he was I remember he was telling me today also about how the spirit.
Wait. Stalked by Stephen King? Why don't you tell us about that? That
Okay,
sounds interesting.
sorry. Stephen J. King.
Oh, go ahead. Stephen J. King. Okay.
Stephen J. King in Sydney University. He was a tenured professor at Sydney University until recently. This is the second time that messages has been deleted on this Australian source's account. And I'm worried about his welfare. However, I don't know if he's broken an agreement to be quiet, because he went off the radar for 10 years. And then an individual linked to Dan Walker, who's also confirmed to be OTO because he was playing with his Toth tarot cards and in the GDL scum. I was obsessed with finding out all of his content on the internet so it could be deleted from YouTube back in the day, because every movement is, especially right-wing movements, are infiltrated by the Ordo Templi Orientis. They have a special fetish for NatSoc because, as you know, Aleister Crowley was in Germany and was messing with Germany since the First World War, and was a former intelligence officer. So I can say without delusion that on the server side, our DMs are in enemy hands. Okay, do not use Twitter for. I only had one avenue to communicate with this guy, but I'm very concerned. So our DM.
I just live my life.
Normally they don't do it over.
Hold on a second. I just live my life assuming that every communication is surveilled. That's all.
It's just not often they do overt surveillance to give you the middle finger, right? They want me worried about the welfare of my my friend in Australia I've been working with since about 2013 on the Ordo Templi Orientis. Remember I talked about Russia in the Olympics?
Yeah, how do you know that Dan Walker is a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis?
Okay, well, for starters, in that GDL, there's a GDL account called GDL Hero Viking, also known, I think, as Steve on the Discord back in the days. Like I said, he was the guy obsessed with my source in Australia. Let's just call him. Do I name him or not? Probably not.
You can name whoever you like, man.
No, this is recorded, and it will make the guy's welfare increase in case something happens to him. I'll say it. It's Stephen McMurray.
Have you called the cops wherever he?
No. I don't have enough to worry a lot. All I have is
ask them to do a welfare check if you're worried.
not at that stage yet. Not at that stage. It's just the intelligence services are advertising they're acting as man in the middle of Twitter DM messages, because I know these messages were put onto my phone. They were written into an SQLite database, used like a local database on your phone, used by the Twitter app. Then the friggin' Twitter app told, when my phone reconnected to the internet, Twitter was told to delete these entries locally on my phone. That's what it takes for this to actually happen. You understand? And the Twitter app didn't know about the messages that weren't sent, that which were stuck in the press the button to retry. Sometimes a message doesn't go through. You might have seen that in the Twitter app. So it looks like it's server-side deletion request of DMs on my phone to my source on the OTO. And so you asked about Dan Walker. He was introduced to me by Katrina Bailey. And when I was friends and sort of friends with him and collaborating with him, I said, you are. I told all of his own Discord server at the time that you were introduced to me. I don't use Discord anymore. No one should, by the way. You were introduced to me by a member.
I was banned from Discord years ago.
Yeah, me too. On some of my accounts, because Discord was used for training the AI to send to everyone on Zuckerbook. If you do a deep dive onto the Discord Trust and Safety Department, Discord is a joint venture capital between two Jewish venture capital firms and the Chi-Coms from Tencent, who make QQ and WeChat. It's hell on earth, Discord. Anyway, back on track. You wanted to know about Dan Walker. So Katrina Bailey introduced me to him. I said, I don't care about who this guy, your friend. I don't want to talk to your friend. Back in the day when I had a top YouTube channel, before it got censored. Then I didn't do anything to contact him. So then she goes to him and he makes a video to get me interested in him. He does a piss weak video about the Ordo Templi Orientis at Sydney University without naming any name, okay, like Stephen J. King. And you can find that documentary, or that small video he made before I actually connected with him, on his 153 News channel, which is the same as mine on my profile. My video channel, my profile, just click on that link and then change the very last part of the URL to activist-news. Okay? Now, so then I contact and collaborate with him. And then this Katrina Bailey woman, I find out she was running the Vote No campaign for gay marriage in Australia and running the skywriting GoFundMe campaign for that to try and get some cred, but she was doing it under a fake name. And she first approached me using the alias Cat Clayton. Anyway, this deranged lunatic, she's whilst running the campaign claiming to be a staunch activist against gay marriage, because this is what I was involved with at birth, not any natsocks or anything. She made a confession to me on a Skype call that she's a mother of a 14-year-old lesbian. I go, how can you believe 14-year-old girls lust for gay sex? What the hell's wrong with you? I told her to go away, leave me and my dad and John Sunhol alone. And she did none of that. And she went into court with John Sunhol, or Sunhol John C on Twitter, when he was being sued by the Ordo Templi Orientis for what I wrote, which was so the OTO had their minion on both sides of the court case, to manage it.
I still don't see how you can demonstrate that Daniel Walker is a member
I've got
of the
screenshots of him saying he's ASIO as well. There's a whole thread on my Telegram group. Yes, there's a whole thread on my Telegram group. He was introduced to me from someone in the Ordo Templi Orientis. There's also links between him and there's three links between him, 3 individuals linked to the Ordo Templi Orientis and back to him, which I've confirmed so far. So,
well, you remember Cyrus 369, right?
What's this from?
Discord. I would appreciate if I could hear from him or the Fascist or any of these old guys that were on the old Discord channel.
The Fascist knew about my conflict with Dan and act suspect, but if he knew the full deep story, he probably wouldn't.
I would like to hear from all these guys. I'd like to hear from all these guys to corroborate this.
Okay, we'll just go to my group and on Telegram and fact check everything. But there's some stuff that's not released. When the Ordo Templi Orientis, also around that time, sued another one of their own members. And so Katrina Bailey I said, look, David Bottrell is suing you for hate speech against the OTO because you shared a shit video on Facebook. Okay, you can jail him. He's done perjury. He testified under oath in an earlier case to jail Vivian Legg and Dyson Devine, whose true crime was getting the Auto Templi Orientis members list in Australia from parareligion.ch. And that's why they were kidnapped and sent to jail without trial, because they got lucky. A former OTO member leaked, the keys to the kingdom, basically. And even archive.org, which is a 501c3 organization in America, ran by FAGS or Bundles of Sticks, they blocked the website from Vivian Legg and Dyson Devine, known as gayaguys.net. That's the level of cover-up this OTO pedophile cult has. My source today was telling me really dangerous and powerful information about how Maria Abramovich is confirmed OTO. She was invited. This is what he told me today. This is what was deleted from my inbox. I want everyone to fact-check this. She was working for the American Studies section at Sydney University in the same building that Stephen Jonathan King, or Stephen J. King of the OTO, worked in. My friend talked about why he went silent for 10 years. He was stalked in person by that Stephen J. King when his daughter had graduation at Sydney University. Maria Abramovich, when she was sending emails that from John Podesta that were taken to John Podesta's mailbox, that came out in WikiLeaks, and the whole hashtag spirit cooking / hashtag cakes of light shit show. She sent them when she was in Australia arranging for stuff to happen in her New York apartment. Okay, so Stephen King had, my source, Stephen McMurray, had better evidence than me linking the Abramovich to the OTO. All I had back in the day was just her wearing a unicursal hexagram, which is the logo of Thelema, the other name for the OTO cult. He's got more sources on that, and that's dangerous because when you link, this OTO pedophile cult to Hillary Clinton, the powers that be.
See, Luke just goes on a rampage and he doesn't listen. You gotta have it back and forth, Luke. This is not how it works, right? I got questions, right? So are you suggesting that the Podesta brothers and Hillary Clinton are also OTO, along with Marina Abramovich, James Alefantis, that whole crew? Luke, are you still there? Well, you have to listen. I know it wasn't.
I wasn't hearing anything. I wasn't hearing any interruptions. That's the thing.
Okay. So are you suggesting that the Podesta brothers and Hillary Clinton and James Alefantis and all these DC Beltway crew are OTO?
My friend had proof. Yes. Maria Abramovich. My friend is claiming lots of this person has given me lots of credible stuff before. Okay, he gave me the currency that got Russia into the bloody Summer Olympics, for God's sake. Okay, he is a dedicated researcher. I thought he went MIA because he circled the black hole that was Fiona Barnett too closely, and that's one thing we still disagree on, which I found odd. So he showed me a screenshot of all of the files from his. I didn't get to have a call with him, but I knew I was talking to the same guy because he sent me a screenshot of all of the files of stuff that we were working on together in 2015. So it's I think it's like a 90% chance it's him or 10% that someone has captured his personal data.
Luke, do you think the Australian government is actively keeping an eye on you?
Of course they fucking are. David Bottrell, leader of the OTO in Australia, he works for the ASIS, the Australian Secret Intelligence Services, in the court cases between Legg and Devine in Canberra, because before they were jailed, they were also sued and found guilty in the Canberra Small Claims Tribunal. But the religion of blood drinking child sex are allowed to do double jeopardy prosecutions in Australia. No one else isn't. In those hearings, David Bottrell was sequestered to the Australian Embassy with all the freaking.
Let me ask you a question.
Australian Embassy in Turkey.
let me ask you a question. You're doing this shit. You're going after these government protected pedo rings. You're a refugee in asylum from your home country. You've paid this price. Your father's paid this price. How do you feel when you see these hacks like Isaac Cappy and Fiona Barnett and that fucking paramilitary guy, the veterans?
I've just seen
all these posers trying to make a name, get famous, make some money off of the worst, most heinous crimes and brutality against our children. How does that make you feel?
It makes me fucking angry. Just today, I was watching a audio from a girl who's trying to orbit Stop the Rots #7 on Twitter, aka Guru, aka Dave Graham. He's a guy who's being persecuted by the state, the government in Australia. And this woman was just talking about Cappy, Isaac Cappy, just today. And she's rumoured to be friends with the ScoMo, the former Prime Minister, and her guest admitted as much in the first 15 minutes of her podcast I was watching before I had a nap. So yeah, these I'll put a bounty on anyone to get a high resolution picture of the necklace she wears. It's probably a unicursal hexagram. I mean, I've caught up Alex Jones before, right? And I've seen some of his guests on a 24-hour money bomb back in the day. I can tell you the exact time it happened for my records. He had a girl invited in to talk on a 24-hour money bomb in the dead zone in the middle of the night, the witching hour, wearing a unicursal hexagram, you know, like actual members of the OTO on Alex Jones' own bloody show. So add him to the list. Alex Jones always says, blood-drinking, Aleister Crowley worshipping Satanists. Even once on an ad he cut in his ad break, but he never says Ordo Templi Orientis, the very cult that Crowley started. So yeah,
He also
there
talks a lot of shit about. He also talks a lot of shit about the Freemasons and who was it? A couple of Masons told us he's a Mason.
I used to have the Stratfor emails that he sent back in the day. That's real. Alex Jones on the Stratfor mailing list. That's real. Alex Emmerich Jones at Infowars.com on Stratfor. Go look it up.
Also,
Get the link.
the tranny porn on his phone.
Yeah, Adam Green did that.
Hilarious.
That was hilarious. Yeah, Adam Green did that. But Adam Green hasn't messaged me yet. Has he chimped out from doing the special on getting this about Lubavitch stuff out?
No. He's just concerned about what obviously you're talking about defending this guy and
no, I never did.
Then we find out he's a piece of shit GDO, praise Yahweh, toothless redneck. So he's not eager to have that association. But
I'm against them. Jason Brown went incommunicado once I caught him out on a phone call admitting his own lawyer was the OTO. It's just like what happened in Australia with Bailey.
Sometimes you sound like a crazy guy. Everybody's OTO. You know, the paranoia. There's like a paranoia.
No, there's a documentary made by other people about Augustus Sol Invictus, Rise of the Nazbols, which is freaking Jason Brown's lawyer. Holy shit. Just search my profile for Nazbols. Renegade Broadcasting's pretty good. They're exposing this, you know, fucking communist, Ordo Templi Orientis, Fabian socialist infiltration of NADSOC. Of course they're doing it.
I get it. But, you know, Dan Walker's OTO, Marina Abramovich's OTO. It's like, all right. I can believe Marina Abramovich because she's like a dark sorceress, right? Like a dark occultist. You know, eat the.
Do you know
pain,
where the phrase spirit cooking came from?
Eat the pain and cut your fucking finger and all this shit and spirit cooking and it's all disgusting and it speaks.
Do you know where the name? Do you know my theory on where spirit cooking came from?
Let me finish. This whole thing, the occult connection, the spirit cooking, the child fucking suffering bondage art of the Podestas, all of this stuff stinks to high heaven, and the fish stinks from the head down. So I get it. I can totally accept all that stuff. It's, you know, the whole Dan Walker thing kind of throws me for a loop. It really does.
I've had Muslim guys in Spaces say Dan Walker came in and took over the brand name, the Goyim Defense League, from a bunch of Muslim activists. And you saw the crowd that he ran with. It kind of makes sense. I've had Muslims who came to me and said, "We know Dan Walker too from back in the day, even before you."
Yeah, well, he was, you know, with HT, you know, they did that thing.
Listen to me. Goyim TV is based on ClipBucket, okay? A video sharing platform, and I've got the.
You told us this. You've told us this multiple
I'll tell you something.
times.
I'll drive something home to you again on what's on topic. I told you my theory for the naming of Spirit Cooking, right? The leaked training videos that every Auto Templi Orientis lodge had that were made in the 90s by the current head of the cult, David Shriver, and I've doxed on my Telegram group, where he says we have to cook the human blood. He made a video called Cakes of Light, of Blood and AIDS. That was his own title, okay? And he said, because of the AIDS virus, we can no longer consume raw human blood. We have to cook it. I've got a video from 1994 with the head of the OTO talking about cooking human blood. That's where the name came from. That's their internal joke name for it. Holy shit. That's my theory. I'm not in the OTO. I wouldn't know this shit for sure, but that's my working theory on why it's called spirit cooking is equal to the Cakes of Light ritual in the OTO. And that's my Telegram group, that video, pin post number 9. Receipts are there. So I was joking with, back on the Discord days, when I was telling Dan to get off Discord because it's being used to train AI. I knew that back then too. You know, investigating Sean SLI because he was the censor of reddit.com/r/Pizzagate. And he said, if you go to that page right now, it says, we will not tolerate a witch hunt. Okay, and that guy is suspect. Sean SLI is the guy putting the job ads out for Discord Trust and Safety to use Python and TensorFlow. Okay.
Well, so, that whole Pizzagate was a psyop to discredit it, to give it the whole muddy the water, satanic panic bullshit. So
do you know what? And it's good things came out of it though. I found out that Q-tards were evil because they were running the Pizzagate thing back then. Right. And just yesterday, this woman who's trying to infiltrate our guru circle, she was praising Q and praising that Isaac Cappy guy I haven't even looked into yet. Only today I saw a video about that.
Dude, Isaac Cappy is a total fucking fraud. Complete and utter fraud. Oh, you didn't see him like vacationing with Fiona Barnett? And they were having like mud baths together. You didn't see that? All that shit?
Oh shit. And oh god, we're connecting dots together right now. Holy shit. Because this woman who was praising Isaac Cappy.
He went like on a pedo tour, a child pedo ring exposure tour with Fiona Barnett, and they were like vacationing together and shit. It was fucking unseemly. Let's go to Spencer and then Brother B. Hello. Spencer, go ahead. Hello.
Hey Al, what's up, bro?
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
You're good to go. Loud and clear.
I've never heard of this. I just joined. I really don't know what you guys are talking about, but I've never heard of like Isaac Cappy being like controlled op or anything.
Well, did you see what he was doing?
No, go ahead, explain it.
Oh, he was saying that Hollywood's full of pedos, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know his story and everything. Yeah.
Right. Like we don't know. Like we didn't know that. Right. And then he's hanging out with Fiona Barnett, and then next thing you know, he's making all these cryptic fucking Periscope videos where he's like,
"Yeah,
I let you down. I let Jesus down. Trump is the savior of the world."
Hey, I didn't know he was a Trump guy. Oh god.
Oh yeah.
Cringe.
Yeah, he was like,
oh,
I have to apologize.
It's just got deleted from another account here. A second account was giving me that video, that Beck video I was going to try and share in the Jumbotron. Holy shit, man.
Jumbotron. Do not put anything on the Jumbotron.
I was going to put one video, though.
Don't put anything on the Jumbotron. Put it in the thread. No more Jumbotrons. I'm going to erase anything that goes on the Jumbotron. I'm going to delete it. Just so you know. Go ahead, Brother B.
Hey, everybody. My name is Brian, and I'm a Palestinian. We're all Palestinians. I wanted to ask Luke, maybe I'm connecting dots here, or maybe I'm not. There's this old, story you hear of why the the Jews were kicked out of Spain because they were cooking matzah with kids or something. Does that have anything to do with the spirit cooking? Is there some sort of tie-in to that, or is that just a rumor about them doing that in Spain?
I do know that gay dads on Twitter used to run a school in Spain, and that's kind of been erased from the internet. It's old news from a decade ago, and that guy's a high-level nonce. Not too sure about what you're talking about in Spain, though.
I think they were kicked out of Spain during the.
He's talking about Ferdinand and Isabella kicking out the Jews and the Muslims in Islam after the Reconquista in 1492, the same year that Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Who was also a converso. You guys have no idea.
Oy vey, oy vey.
You have no idea how you've been conquered.
But Al, is there?
My hands now. I'm rubbing them.
Oy vey. Is there any truth to that they used to make matzah out of the, children? They would kill children and make the matzah. Wasn't that one of the things
that's the blood libel? Yes, you've seen. I've done videos on this. It's been recorded throughout history over 2,000 years.
So that's why I kind of heard what Luke was saying about with the spirit cooking and all that. I just was wondering if there was some sort of Kabbalah tie-in or some sort of, All right, that's it.
Spencer, you got anything else, or Luke?
Hold on, I'm just going through my block users because to get a video to add to the blue pill, but it has someone platforming a mate of Isaac Cappy, who's also linked to the OTO pedophiles in Cooker Watch that Guru has trouble with. Guru's an Australian, internet personality being sued.
He had a really crazy end, right? Like he made this really cryptic Periscope video a day before he allegedly killed himself, right? Mm-hmm. And he was all nervous, and he was telling everybody that he betrayed them, that he did some unforgivable sin, and he apologized to Jesus and Donald Trump. And the next day, they report that he was killed, jumping off of a fucking overpass and got run over or something. He was clearly crazy. So.
Yeah, Trump's not your best friend. A lot of the retards.
He was a Q-tard. He was a full-blown Q-tard.
These Q-tards, man. Yeah. I keep saying link. Did you know that the vote.co, right, website that Pizzagate moved to from Reddit, when it was spammed with child porn, they would, and that disgusted me. They would delete the thread from the thread index. But the fucking link where the child porn was would still work, and it would just say, they would just tag the post as deleted, but they wouldn't actually fucking removed it. And I was even calling 1-800-THE-LOST, saying that this bloody website called vote.co is suspect as hell. And if you actually worked out who owned it, it was owned by the same scumbags as Reddit, which is suspect as hell, which is called Y Combinator. So, so I realized that all the leaders and moderators of vote.co/v/Pizzagate were all the Great Awakening Q-tard scum. And since 2016, I had a war with them, even before I had a war with the GDL starting in 2020. So you tell Adam Green that I've always been on the right side of history if I had the means to find out. And I'm not an ally of. I used a NetSoc to cause absolute mayhem for the ADL, but I am not affiliated with these people. Remember?
Okay, I'll let him know.
You let him know for sure, and also tell him that the time I did an interview on Daily Stormer, that was only because a Jewish terrorist, Joshua Rai Goldberg, was writing on the Daily Stormer using the alias Michael Slay before he was arrested as being a ringleader in a so-called Islamic terrorist plot that was caught by the FBI before it came to fruition. So you have Jewish, intelligence officers in America.
Why do they have to change their names? Why do they have to steal the names? Why are they doing this? Why do they change their names like that, Luke?
Well, that was the name he was using on the Daily Stormer, but the guy was a Jewish agent, and if a Muslim person gets arrested. If a Muslim person gets arrested,
I appreciate it. We're going to move on to Bush.
Okay, last sentence.
Hello.
One sentence.
Hello, Albert.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hey, I wanted to give you the pieces of information I have on the Isaac Cappy suicide, if that's relevant right now. If not,
Yeah,
I'll
go
just
ahead. Give us the Isaac Cappy psyop suicide.
okay, just the pieces that I have I wanted to throw out there are that he claimed he was being attacked by voice-to-head technology, which is just one piece of it. There is a video of
To
him
head technology? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've just been hearing about
Voice
it.
to
There's
skull.
a technology where they can voice the skull. There's a technology where they can speak directly to your brain. It can be, I don't know what it is, but that was one piece of this they were driving him crazy with it, was what he was saying. There is a video of him on the bridge right when he committed suicide. Are you aware of this video?
No.
It was a patrol officer was cruising and had a dash cam video. And on this video was the song How You Remind Me by Three Doors Down. And right when he drives by Isaac Cappy, right when he drives by Cappy, there's a certain point in the song. And if you go to that point in the song, it's exactly at the 1 minute 33 second mark of the song that the cop drives by Cappy. I found that to be interesting because 133 is an absolute signature of Masonic shit. So I just wanted to throw that out there. The suicide Miles Mathis said is a fake. And if you read Miles Mathis, you can read why it was a fake. It happened on Route 66, and Tom Hanks had a post about roadkill at Route 66 where the suicide happened. So that was weird. And Tom Hanks' son had a red handkerchief that he was selling that also tied into this. And let's see.
Chet Hanks?
Yeah, Tom Hanks. Sorry, go ahead.
Chet, his son, whose name is Chet.
Yeah, his son Chet was allegedly making handkerchiefs, and they're called Hanks, Hanx handkerchiefs. And there was a red handkerchief that was tied into this event. Anyway, it all does seem to me, when you put all these pieces together, it does seem to me like it's some kind of an operation. And I just wanted to throw those pieces out for anyone that might be able to time anything else. But that's all I had.
It's 100% horse shit. That's what Isaac Cappy did not contribute anything. I don't understand why anyone would murder him or choreograph a suicide. All he was doing was discrediting Pedogate. Him and Fiona Barnett did nothing but bring shame to the whole Pedogate, muddy the waters, and discredit it. So I don't know why
he outed Sean Green, that guy. He outed him. He outed Tom Hanks. He was outing Hollywood for being pedophiles. So I thought he was doing some good promoting it.
He didn't out Tom Hanks. What's her name did? That other girl whose father was a Democratic operative in Illinois. She did, not Isaac Cappy. And then they had a whole QAnon fucking reunion, mutual admiration society after that. But it was that green guy, that little ginger Jewish guy actor. What's his name? He was in the Austin Powers movie.
Well, what was Cappy's purpose then? Like, how are they using Cappy? What's his purpose? What are they doing?
They're using him to discredit Pedogate, to make it like satanic panic. It's not real. Look at this fucking tool.
Just like Fiona Barnett. Let me tell you, but Fiona Barnett's given me two things which were solid. One that appeals to me personally because of local knowledge in Australia, and the other one, Fiona Barnett gave Stephen McMurray the leaked document from the more recent Royal Commission into institutionalized child sexual abuses. This document was produced by Merrill Corporation, one of the 4 or 5 rackets in Australia that have a monopoly on doing court transcripts for the courts. Each word cost a couple of bucks to do. It's a huge racket. And I called up the Canberra Rape Crisis Centre, and one of the persons named in the document in my Telegram group. Just search for Olympics on my Twitter profile, or search for Olympics on my Telegram group, and you can find that. You can actually find that document, or search "Big Drop Coming Soon." I used a Q-tard phrase just for laughs. Yeah, that document was real, and I believe it got Russia back into the Winter Olympics in 2021. because the head of the World Anti-Doping Agency is Justice James Woods, who ran the Wood Royal Commission in Australia, and he was named as an abuser of Henry Dean Chisholm Thomas. That's one true thing that came from Fiona Barnett. She got access to a high-level government leak, and she gave it to Steve McMurray, who gave it to me, who gave it to the Russian Anti-Doping Agency.
Hold on, Luke. I want to go back to Cappy and Fiona Barnett. You got anything on that, Boosh?
No, I'd like you to tell us who Fiona Barnett is. I've never heard her name, and that's weird that I wouldn't have heard of her. So
I can do the intro if you want. And to Fiona Barnett, okay? The fair intro.
She's an Australian. She claims that she was MK Ultra by the intelligence services, CIA. She claimed that Richard Nixon and Billy Graham raped her at Bohemian Grove, and she made a lot of crazy, fucking outrageous claims that she can't substantiate. Jan Irvin did a pretty nice job of completely destroying her credibility, even though Jan's a fucking tool.
Also, Channel 7 News built her up so ABC Media Watch could cut her down for her deep underground bases and 6,000-kilometer long underground tunnel network she was raving about, when she wasn't surviving without oxygen in the back of a C-7 Galaxy on the flight to America to have sex with Nixon or something. She's obsessed with another thing about the OTO is, as I said, they're obsessed with attacking NatSoc, because that's what Aleister Crowley did. So it's kind of like they love to honour their founder, because Aleister Crowley was British intelligence. He was in Italy when Mussolini was there, and Mussolini kicked him out. He was also linked to the sinking of the Lusitania. If you look at some work from some actual tenured history professors who studied him, there's videos on my channel about my Telegram group about that, which blew me away. So she mixes truth with lies to discredit the movement. Okay. Now the one guy, as I said, there's one guy that's connected to Dan Walker that was obsessed with finding out what Stephen McMurray knew and where his videos were from me. And he's the same guy that we saw on a GDL live stream playing with his Aleister Crowley Toth tarot cards, which the OTO loves suing every Hollywood movie that uses those cards without authorization from the Ordo Templi Orientis with a copyright breach. Yeah, they actually do that. So this is really deep, but that link that I put in the blue pill just then, that was deleted from my instant messages. I had to go to my blocked users that I blocked today to try and get that. There's a video of a woman who was defending a group of OTO nut jobs called Cooker Watch and caused me grief. And she was saying that she's linked to ScoMo, the former prime minister. Her guest in the first 15 minutes, I haven't watched the whole thing yet, is talking about being personal mates with Isaac Cappy, picking him up at the airport, and also openly being friends with ScoMo, the former prime minister.
He said that Seth Green had this secret walled room where he would rape children. There was a little teenage black kid, and he was scared for him, and and I don't know, man. It all stunk to high heaven. Yeah, we get it. We get that the elite like to rape kids. It's not like it's not believable. It's believable.
Do you know why I think Fiona Barnett is OTO herself? Because she mixes small bits of truth in there, which she didn't think anyone would be able to verify. In her writing, she talked about a guy near Lucas Heights having dangerous dogs that was, killing kids and stuff. And back in the 90s, when this was going on, I had a gig called Luke's Delivery Service. I would stamp the back of pamphlets of real estate agents who would make me deliver all the mail on my mountain bike with a rack on the back of it. And I had a showdown with that guy and his dogs, and he threatened to kill me. And I even called the cops from my Nokia 1610 back in the day on that particular individual Fiona Barnett was talking about. And I don't want to give credit to her. She's mixing truth with lies. I've seen people who claim to be ex-Ordo Templi Orientis, like Mark Pazio, who's telling people in YouTube videos, Aleister Crowley's a great dude, you should study him. I've got receipts for that on my Telegram group. There's also another individual who I actually did the Ordo Templi Orientis roundtable with on Spotify with Josh Monday's Christian Conspiracy podcast. And that guy is actually following me right now. And he's done some naughty shit. And I'm going to go friggin' archive that naughty shit right now. He's made a confession in another stream, according to my sources. These people don't get out. They just pretend they're not in it anymore, So yeah, this is all very interesting, and I'm going to do homework to find out all about this Cappy character.
Oh,
But,
dude, if you, I can't believe he wasn't. He was never on your radar. Yeah, let me go to Brother B. I think he might have a question for you, Luke. Hold on, Brother B. Hello.
Yeah, it's Brother B here, Brian. Yeah, the whole Q thing. I was talking about this yesterday about the two sides of Q. You got the right hand path with the Christian conservatives, and then you have the left hand path Q people with the New Age. But they both are united, and they believe Donald Trump is going to rescue the pedophile cannibal Democrats from the tunnels under the White House and all this crazy. Don't they realize that Trump is one of them and that he's actually been we were talking about the something about a little girl or something that he got.
Katie Johnson.
Yeah, but don't they see I don't understand where the disconnect, where the blinders are. It's ridiculous.
They're the stupidest people. They're the lowest IQ demographic in the country.
Wow.
They're the Bible Belt.
You're going to link Trump to child abuse. Just look at his Zionist activity.
Hold on a second, Luke. They're the Bible Belt evangelical Zionist Christians. That's who the Q people are.
It is. And then, like I said, they have the other side with the New Age Q people that believe in the chakras and the Kundalini and the UFOs and Trump's with the Kabbalah, and Trump's with the secret space force, and they got people on other, you ever heard of Carrie Cassidy, Project Camelot? Oh, she's into all that. I watch it for a laugh. But I wanted to talk about also the Tom Hanks. It was some creepy stuff back in the day about him taking pictures of little kids' shoes, but only one shoe. Like he would take a picture of shoes or little kid stuff discarded on the side of the road when he was out for his walks, air quotes. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, and then the voice to skull thing, I believe it's what they claim to have used that during the first Gulf War, where they did it to the Iraqis, thought they heard Allah say lay down your weapons or something like that. So there's some sort of history with this voice to skull, as far as that.
Hey, do you guys know the name of the driver that hit Isaac Cappy on the road?
That's all. I'll go down.
Go ahead.
The name of the driver that killed Cappy, his first name was Forrest.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Was he a gun?
What was it? Was it choreographed? It could have been choreographed. Why not?
I've seen real evidence of the the Victoria Burke Street Mall being choreographed. I have seen a video of the guy who sacrificed a baby in Burke Street Mall by running it down with a Commodore, which is like the Australian Mustang, smiling behind a Channel 7 news presenter just after it happened, trolling them in an off-cut image. I've seen people, a guy called PK on 153 News, these videos are probably still up, was showing that people were, doing actual street choreographed stuff on the street. And then all the donations for the Burke Street Mall incident were given to Justice Connect to manage the fund for legal aid for the victims or whatever this crap was. They had this official government fundraiser for the Burke Street Mall massacre, and they are the lawyers for the Auto Templi Orientis. So I've seen the Burke Street, that's bringing back memories from about 6 or 7 years ago. Those three things in collaboration made my ears prick up and go, oh my God. I did blog posts about it on Johnson Hall's blog, which I shared my... And those blog posts were deleted by court order by the OTO themselves directly as well. So there's 4 links to the OTO and a live baby sacrifice incident that happened in Australia.
Luke, listen to me. I want to ask you something. So are you suggesting that in the pyramid structure, the OTO is atop of the Freemasons?
Yes, they are the child sex elective of the Freemasons, and I believe them to be the child abuse blackmail currency mint for the Rothschild Jew, based on the proven Zionist activity of their leaders and their collaboration with Jewish groups. For example, loveforlife.com.au being sued by the New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies, headed by the pedophile is on my avatar, David Bittel, B-I-T-E-L, Indian surname, but he's Jewish. And then the OTO David Bottrell coming in to sue loveforlife.com.au, and you can see David Bottrell's email leaked to me by loveforlife.com.au demanding the same content the Jews want censored to be censored as part of his legal victory in court against loveforlife.com.au. So there's a Zionist link to the Ordo Templi Orientis. And there you go. And if you want to know you want to link Trump to child abuse, just look at the fact he's a hardcore Zionist based on his actions, his deeds, and his public comments. And we all know the child abuse that the Zionists are doing in Gaza right now. So if you support Trump, you're a fucking retard. And I'll say it openly. He's lesser of two evils. Like, you got spirit cooking Hillary Clinton in 2016. You had a choice between, Zionist Front A or Zionist Front B. It's like Skull and Bones, John Kerry and Bush in 2004 and Meet the Press. But that was your choice in 2016.
Right. It's Zionist Dem or Zionist Republican. There's no fucking difference.
Hey, question for you guys. Where's this all going? I mean, these secret orders are taking over. Everyone's controlled. It's all Zionist. Where are we headed here?
Well, if you're going to go by their prophecy fulfillment, the destination is a world of their own. That's the final destination. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. If you're going to go according to their messianic prophecies, it's a world of their own, right? Which is this new world order, where the nation-state capital of this new world order will be Israel. And everyone will seek the sage wisdom of the Jewish prophets in Jerusalem. That's their prophecy. And you can be one of 2,800 Gentile slaves if they don't decapitate you.
The Indians, they're going to import into Greater Israel. That's the link between the supremacists.
No, they want nothing to do with the Indians, bro. They really can't stand the Indians.
Yeah, they just
to be honest with you. They think they're idolaters, and they will, as Rabbi Mizrachi said, that at the time in the Moshiach, they're going to have to decapitate all the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Got to grab
Anyone
hold of their tassels.
who's not Noahide compliant will be decapitated, and if you're not decapitated, you'll become a slave. That's what they want.
One of 2,800.
What's the time frame? What's the time frame for all this?
2030.
Some people think it's going to happen soon because
it can happen. It can happen anywhere from today to about 200 and some odd years in the future.
Yeah.
It's the Shabbos millennium, the seventh millennium, because they believe that's where we're entering.
Is that the age of
Can I ask a favor from the listeners?
Age of what is it? It's Pisces to
Age of Aquarius.
Aquarius. Thank you, Al. Yeah.
Can I ask a non-financial favor from your listeners here? Okay. On November the 16th to 17th, strange shit happened to me that almost caused my death in hospital. I require someone who's an American doctor to go over my files, and preferably with experience with working with the American Thyroid Association. But any proper American doctor who could understand the adverse consequences of drug overdoses of hospital-grade medicine would be appreciated to protect myself. Because a play was done to put me out of circulation. I won't go into it, but it involved the Five Eyes, including the New Zealand government, and I have lots of receipts of it. And it's very close to home, and it was unsuccessful, but it came close to success. And I would like to have some insurance to keep myself safe. So I would like a proper medical legal opinion from an American doctor that can prove beyond all reasonable doubt that something very bad happened to me in hospital on November the 16th and 17th. In two different hospitals, I was almost killed. What I will say now is I was given 4 pills of ondansetron, 8 milligram SSRI anti-vomiting drug. And I've just confirmed today from going to a government cancer hospital, they give 3 times the 3 times less than the recommended dose by default in government hospitals in Vietnam. So I was given 12 times the maximum dose by a doctor that caused my lower body paralysis and 3 of my toes on my left foot to become compound fractures. I didn't feel pain for 18 hours until the medicine started to wear off. It wasn't an adverse reaction to the drug because that would cause a high heartbeat. I had an incredibly low heartbeat, and it could have been that drug combined with a morphine pill that is, you know, an extreme adverse reaction. And then at the next hospital, they tried to give me rare schizo medicine without me and call it a sedative. Remember, I was drugged out of the fuck of my head on SSRIs, but I was still with it enough to refuse consent for the other drug, which is called Amazin, 1.25%. And that drug, if they gave me the 12 vials of that combined with a 43 beat per minute heartbeat, I wouldn't be here right now. So if anyone knows is friends with a legit doctor who would like to go over all my medical files and write a statement after reviewing it and annex what some of the exhibits I send, that would prevent physical harm happening to me where I am now. There is it's either medical malpractice or 2 weeks after I lodged a complaint with the IGIS against my nemesis in Australia, Catherine Byrne, who's an ASIS officer. That you would say deputy director of the CIA in American lingo, and I outed her 5 years before the mainstream media in my Jim Fetzer interview on my channel in 2016. I lied in the broadcast and said I use parallel construction, but I actually got the information from a friend in Australia, Anthony Collins of Bridgebank Security, who confirmed back then she was second in charge of ASIS. And I was saying it 5 years, you know, to all my friends on Discord and what have you. Back in the day, you might have even heard it 5 or 6 years before the mainstream media outed Catherine Burns as Australia's highest ranking spy. Both her and her brother were on the Sydney Beat Project website, and the link on my bio is that Sydney Beat Project. Gay beat means is this gay slang for public sex or dogging, asking Parliament to legalise all sex in front of children in Australia. Live sex shows for kids on the street must be decriminalised, following the double quote Amsterdam model. I've spoken to my Russian friend who'd spent time in Amsterdam, and it is actually de facto legal for gays to have anal sex in front of children in Amsterdam parks. So yeah, holy shit, the gays are actually asking Parliament to decriminalise sex with children. And my submission
Now,
in my bio.
Why is this so advanced in the UK and Australia? Why is why does the LG the lowering the age of consent, normalizing pedophilia? You guys are way ahead of us in terms of that kind of shit.
Oh, no, they were tried it in England first in the 80s. You know, they had gay dads putting out their books to kids in South London in the 80s, and there was a 60 minutes America story about it in the day, and the school principal involved in that ironically had to flee to Australia back then. And that was the Labor people in council in South London is where the genesis of it started. And you had everyday English mothers in the 60-minute special protesting, you know, about their kids being given gay dads propaganda back then, and they were attacked by lesbians who pissed on them on the street. And 60 Minutes America gave coverage of it before it was taken over by homosexual CIA mockingbird Anderson Cooper.
What is it? Gloria Vanderbilt's son, right? People don't realize that he had an internship in the CIA. He's Gloria Vanderbilt's son, one of the, you know, an oligarch family. Come on, man. Let's go to
Albert. Can you vouch? Yeah. Can you vouch for me to Adam Green to try and
expose it? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much.
All right, bro. Brother B, I think might have a question for you. Go ahead.
Oh yes, in this country, I think we have something called NAMBLA, the Man and Boy Love Association, and they have a phrase, "sex before 8, before it's too late," or something like that. And they did a homosexual sodomite manifesto was read into the Congress, into the books of the Congress. I don't. You ever heard of that?
I haven't heard of that, but I know what you're talking about.
He's talking to me, bro, and I've got a whole video on the subject. If you go to
Man Boy Love Association,
if you go to my BitChute channel, and I'll spell it out now, BitChute, it's spelled bitch and ute, .com/Hotel Oscar Juliet Uniform, Romeo Uniform, Kilo Uniform. That's for the people on the replay. Or Hoju Ruku, it means Aussie Luke in Korean. You will see a video on there which says on the caption for the video, it says NAMBLA walks with me. That was worn, and don't interrupt Albert because this will blow you away. That was worn by Harry Hay. Okay, if you search hashtag Harry Hay.
White stains.
No. White Stains is by Aleister Crowley. This is something different.
Crowley. My bad.
Right. If you search hashtag Harry Hay, we're going to the OTO, don't you worry. The OTO is the first gay rights organization in America. Holy shit, that's why it's protected so much. Now it's all making sense, isn't it? Gay rights comes from...
I saw an excellent documentary on Howard Hay by some dude. I can't remember
Harry
who it is.
Hay,
and it's been scrubbed. I was looking for it to find it.
Yeah, I've saved it. It was done by Breitbart back in the day. Yes, and Alan Jennings and the Fistgate saga that Mass Resistance broke. But Mass Resistance is run by a Jew, so, you know, they're limited hangout in some regards. Now, Brian Caremaker. Now, back on topic. So Harry Hay founded the first gay rights organization officially in America, the Matinee Society. That's why under Californian House Bill SB 48, Gay History Month Bill, all Californian children are required by law to go to lgbthistorymonth.com/Harry-Hay, also known as nambla.org/Hay-on-manboylove.html. He goes to gay pride marches holding his NAMBLA Walks With Me sign and in his official biography. If you search hashtag Harry Hay, you will see people holding it up on Twitter if it's still there and hasn't been censored. It will be because I'm under heavy surveillance. Go check it out now and screenshot it. He played the organ by his own admission in OTO Agape Lodge, Los Angeles, the OTO Child Sex Lodge, founded by Zionist traitor Jack Parsons, okay, who the FBI says gave American military technology to the first weapons factory the Jews had in Israel to facilitate the fucking Nakba. Wow. See the Zionist link? Go again. Okay, this is real. This is the Kabbalist Masonic child sex cult. They get their stuff from the Knights Templar. Their Gnostic Catholic mass child orgy ritual that the head of the cult's on camera mandating 2 real children or adult stand-ins must join looks exactly like the 1200 woodblock carvings of a black mass. Not an iota of difference. The highest level in this cult is Master of the Hermit Triad XI in gay anal sex black magic to open the gates of hell. If you ridicule them, if you didn't hear my ranting previously, the police will come to your house and send you to jail without trial. This is not a joke. Age newspaper, couple jailed for contempt.
We're supposed to take that seriously, that they're gonna butt bang each other and open the gates of hell.
And you know what?
We're supposed to take that seriously.
They believe that they believe that anal sex enhances the power of black magic. If you want to see this illustrated, watch the first 30 minutes of Aleister Crowley, Wickedest Man in the World by Channel 4 UK. That documentary.
Luke, are you aware that the good rabbi, the Chabad rabbi, the Orthodox Hasidic rabbi, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, are you familiar with the fact that his daughter sells the slickest lube in the market you can possibly slap on your Johnson that can maximize and exploit the best possible kosher sex experience you could ever have? Did you know that, Luke?
No, but did you know? I got another rabbi for you. Did you know that the head Ashkenazi rabbi, because they've got 2 brands, Sephardic and Ashkenazi, of Israel, went to Germany, Yoni Metzger is his name, in 2012, to get a rabbi of child sex charges for doing a Metzitza B'Peh. That's incredible. That shows you how occupied Germany is. Have you seen the footage of German lawmakers saying it's a crime by law to legalize child penis sucking for the chosen master race? Because this is actual real too. I'm against pedophilia normalization. That's my whole shtick, as the Jews would say. And no one does better than Chabad Lubavitch, OTO, and LGBTP. They are the great threats to our children, and they're all linked to the chosen master race. And all their every single time I find people supporting one of those 3 cults. There's either Zionism.
They're kosher. Every single time.
That's right.
Kosher.
Every time.
I'm going to come to the church.
Even Christian Zionists in Australia who betrayed me, Bernard Gaynor, he's in a whole Zionist festival.
I have
And that's
another
why
Listen,
I
they
feel
love,
like
they love the depravity. They love the degeneracy. It comes from like the Sabbatean salvation through transgression, the holiness of sin. Blessed is he who permits the forbidden. You have to embrace the evil impulse, because without the
I
evil
saw a book.
impulse, Israel cannot prevail in the world. All of this emanates from a very dark place. A very dark place.
Can I ask
That's what we're
you a
talking about.
question?
Yeah,
About,
go ahead.
does he know about? There was a book out called The Pink Swastika, when it talked about Himmler and all his SS guys would be doing what you were talking about. You know, doing.
All you guys want to talk about is the gay shit.
Well, I mean,
what is it with the gay shit?
Well, it ties into what he was talking about. They believed that they were doing this thing, you know, up each other's rear end to push the chakras up or some sort of stupid. Have you ever heard of that?
I remember that book, and I've actually talked to it. So remember, I associated with all sorts of different people. I didn't care who they were. I was on a mission. I'm still on a mission to try and get people with balls to stand outside Tambourine Mountain State High School in response to my pinned thread, whatever, with 20 replies in it, and then more replies below that, to shut down a state-sponsored pedophile. Okay, so I'm saying it now. I'm not going. I associated with Natsocks, and a lot of Natsocks are very triggered by that book. What I do know is that Hitler actually did have links to supporting Christianity, which has been suppressed. Hitler did burn the books of Freitas Saturni's Ordo Templi Orientis Lodge in Germany, which still triggers the Jews today. And in that,
communist propaganda and pornography as well.
Yeah, all that, yes. But on the same side, the SS was infiltrated by the Thule Society, and the Thule Society worshipped Madame Blavatsky, and the head of the Episcopalian Society in Australia that founded the special gay police that made little Luke McKay a refugee and got me looking at the OTO in the first place, Dr. Gregory John Tillett. And I'd like to say Stephen McMurray gave me that gem. He's like my wingman. And I'm absolutely pissed off that messages between him, any important messages about the OTO on this platform right now are being censored. The intelligence services have their hooks into Twitter. It is totally official. When I hear about people having technical problems and freaking out, I'm a natural skeptic because I come from an IT background. I'm telling you, server side on Twitter, a command was sent to my app to delete messages from my DMs that I had laid my eyes on and screenshotted. Okay, and I screenshotted some of them today too, the ones that went missing. Now, yes, I could theoretically I could hoax this by deleting my own messages, but as God is my witness, this shit's going on. This functionality, an IT expert will find this functionality is in the client-server protocol between the Twitter app. It has been used in my case.
But Elon being nominated for a World Peace Nobel Peace Prize for free speech. Did you guys hear about that?
It's kind of laughable, but now that he's done his service in terms of Jewry, right? In terms of swearing his fealty to and understanding his place before Zog, right, on his knees, he has to be rewarded.
Hey guys, who's the biggest boss in all this? Does it all go back to the Rothschild or the black nobility, or who's the biggest boss behind the final door that's calling all the shots in the long run here?
It's not a single person, right? It's a collective, and we know who the collective is, right? Those we cannot speak of, those who cannot be named. They're all working together because it's a big world, right? And to create a world of your own, you need a lot of surrogates, and you need a lot of fucking, shock troops, the Freemasons, the evangelical Zionist Christians, the Indians, the whoever, and who, all of these tentacles, right? And not to mention that they have the institutions of power in the West.
Could I, sir?
I'd just like to say something not for your audience, but for the spooks listening, just to give them the middle finger very quickly. Here's what I'm going to do now. If you keep fucking with my Twitter, I've got a rooted phone. I'm going to take a dump of a backup of the Twitter client after I've got some juicy tidbits on the OTO from my sources. Okay. Then I'm going to extract the SSL client key used by Twitter to talk to Twitter servers. And then I'm going to keep a PCAP running on all the network traffic between Twitter and my phone. And then I'm going to decrypt the SSL and get forensic proof of the allegation I just made against Twitter. So don't you try it again against me. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a real IT guy. This shit can be forensically proven, but it just takes a lot of work to do it.
Can
All
I,
right,
Albert?
Dore, you got some people that might want to participate here. Let's go to Aryan. Hello.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to maybe clarify something that I tried to say earlier, which was on this subject of with the Muslims and how we can get together. I'm just trying to understand and learn, and it's in Messianic Judaism, one of the biggest threats to what they are saying. It seems to be what they're saying themselves is Edom and Ishmael should not get together anytime. That's the worst. So that's why I'm asking is if textually, doctrinally, or any of this stuff, the Muslims who have been participating, if you have information or have something that we can discuss around what does this mean and what do we do and how do we think on this.
I think the Muslims believe that the Christians and the Muslims are going to team up against those who cannot be named.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's their end times prophecy. I don't know. Cosmic's in here, right?
Yeah.
I think we'd be better off. If we disbanded Abrahamic religions and attack the Chosenites with our own communities. Like Arab and brown people can root out their Jewish overlords from within their own countries, and we as whites can do that in our countries.
Well, it's not about just okay. We got to be careful about how we talk about this because we're not bigots and we're not supremacists. All we want to do is liberate our own countries in a democratic endeavor and uproot the malevolent, corrosive force that's enslaving us, the majority. That's it. So we want to get the corrosive 2% that has disproportionate power, influence in our country out. We're not looking to genocide anyone. I'm not looking to deport anyone. Just remove our shackles of kosher servitude to free ourselves. That's it. Sovereignty.
Amen, brother.
It's about sovereignty. Thank you,
They removed compulsory Bible study from Australia in the late 90s. Okay, the Anglican Church used to have half an hour, 1 hour a week with all the kids in primary schools, and there's an agenda to destroy morals. My research of the enemy Ordo Templi Orientis shows a plot to steal all Catholic Church land and shut them down. I've seen the Catholic Church heavily infiltrate.
I'm in favor of that. If that's part of their plan, I can get on board with that. Close down every Catholic church. I'm with it.
Remember, the Catholic Church their biggest crime was not discriminating against homosexuals and allowing homosexuals in. And according to the ABC in Australia, in a now redacted article, 98% of all the abuse cases were boys. Okay, so this is a real thing.
The Catholic Church is up to their eyeballs in this. They don't want to close down the Catholic Church.
Now their
They're
leadership
their
is
greatest clients. Come on, man. Let's go to Professor Rick. Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I just hopped on. I kind of got tied up on something, so I'll have to hop back on speaker in a second.
All right, no worries. Go ahead. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, so the plan to steal all church land was a three-pronged attack that was done, which is very diabolical. Yeah, in England and other Western countries, there's a law to protect the church from litigation, as in stealing church land and what have you. That in Australia is called the Ellis defence. It was removed. Stage 1. Stage 2. Okay, you have to.
Luke, before you go to stage 2, answer this question: is there a bigger threat to the children of the world than the Catholic Church?
Yes, the people who want to shut down the Catholic Church.
Really?
the Ordo Templi Orientis and all their minions like Scientology, LGBT,
okay, but don't you think? Don't you think in terms of the metrics, in terms of the numbers, there's no greater predator institutionally than the Catholic Church?
Historically, it was the Catholic Church because that's where
Of course it is, and it still is to this very day.
Yeah, I've never seen anything good from it. Okay, I'm just saying that there is some good Catholics in there, but even I haven't found any good.
Hold on a second, because you're trying to paint me out to be this kind of bigot, anti-Catholic. I'm not. I'm against the institution, the Vatican. I'm telling you, there is no greater predator of children historically ever than the Catholic Church. Fact. Stop. Full stop. Exclamation point.
when I was at Sydney Grammar, my history assignment was On the Roads, the hot Sean Connery movie back in the 90s. You remember that one? Number 2. Okay.
Wait, go ahead, Luke. Go ahead. Sorry about that. I accidentally muted everyone. Go ahead.
Stage 1, go for church land. Illis defence removed. Stage 2, remove the statute of limitations for historical child sex offences. Sounds like a good thing. But look how they use it in Australia. There was a High Court case against Cardinal Pell, a second in charge of the Vatican. He is as guilty as fucking sin for covering up child sexual abuse, and I'll tell you why in a second. But in his specific case in the High Court, he was framed up, and the rules of evidence was not followed. His attempted conviction was to set a precedent that truth is irrelevant, to go after the Catholic Church, okay, and seize all church land, okay. If you Martin Iles from the Australian Christian Lobby broke down the case in great detail to show that the allegations against him were infeasible and fabricated.
All right, let's go.
I know for a fact.
Hold on a second. Let's go. Let's let some people participate here. John Ray, hello.
How's it going now? Great to join you guys today. I just wanted to just push back a little bit on that Catholic Church issue. According to what I've read, a lot of your child is more likely to be sexually abused in the public schools than they are in the Catholic Church. I'm not saying it's a great institution. We all know the problems that they've had with it, but technically your child is in more danger at school. Appreciate you guys letting me get in on the conversation.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that.
Also, I want to say something funny too, but scary.
I'm just going by like historical numbers. I get blown away. Like in France, it's something like over 300,000 children since 1950 something to like the early 2000s have been abused. I mean, and this is just one country. And if you look at, as far as this country is concerned, the just the widespread predation in the Boston diocese alone is mind-boggling.
I investigated.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. The numbers we're talking about.
You're right. You are right. And Gary Burns was actually connected to a Boston priest back in the day. I mean, holy shit, yeah. And I've actually found a Boston educator linked to the Archdiocese running amok on Periscope, a couple of years ago. So yeah, there's that. Now the thing is the Australian.
Go ahead, Luke. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
The Australian government ordered the Catholic Church to cover up child rape. And I want you to understand this. We're comparing, if we're going to make an analogy here, the Catholic Church is like Palestine, okay? And LGBT or closet homos are like the Jews, okay? The Catholic Church was thoroughly infiltrated because back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, if you were a gay person and you were not going to breed, you would be disowned by your family unless, you want to finish my sentence for me?
Unless what, you raped a kid?
No.
You went to the priesthood.
God, yes, that's right. Someone else got it. Okay,
What's the difference? Going into the priesthood, raping a kid?
The Catholic Church's greatest crime historically is they didn't discriminate against homosexuals. Like, here's another shocking thing.
Luke, why do you think that homosexuals gravitate towards the Catholic Church? You don't think all of the pageantry and the robes and the rituals and all this kind of all these things attract them? Of course they do. It's a totally gay institution.
I've had a personal war with two Catholic activists, okay? One of them interviewed Milo, and my troll army trolled Milo when he was on with this Catholic activist who loves to talk about the gay disco. You know who I'm talking about. Milo faked a blackout and left the live stream because my just had too many people on the comments on my side. And then there was, and you can search my Telegram group for Milo Yiannopoulos, that guy. He's also a Catholic infiltrator, and I shut him down. I got him fired from church militancy.
Is he Catholic? Is he Jewish?
No,
is he
he's
gay?
a Jewish
Is
pedophile.
he straight?
Milo is a Jewish pedophile.
That guy's a fucking clown, and he's a chameleon, and he's something. He likes to reinvent himself every 6 months.
I paid money for a Russian bot to find all the Telegram groups he was in on my Telegram group. That his official Telegram account is Milo INC. You can call him up now and give him the middle finger from me. I found him in a child porn trading group with the same scumbags who spammed my Telegram group and made me lock it down so no one can post but mods. And now I can't post because my old account got deleted, so I have to forward my messages. And that actually saved my Telegram group when my intelligence services got access to my SIM card when my phone was off for 3 months when I was having a break from activism. That's why it's still there, because no account I control can actually post on it. So yeah, Milo is a piece of shit. And also there's Bernard Gaynor, who's a Catholic activist. And his greatest defeat was losing in the High Court of Australia. And the government said, if you're against the Homo Globo agenda, you can be terminated from your government job. So if you're opposing queer law reform or lowering the age of consent or what the gays call equal age of consent or whatever the next bullshit endeavor they're on, you'll lose your government job. That's the chilling effect that Bernard Gaynor, the Catholic activist, brought us. And he's sitting on information that can end gay marriage. But trust me, I'm not a Catholic bitch.
Let the gays get married, bro. What do you care if they get married or not?
I care that it's now a front for every little boy lover and every little girl lover who adopt kids. I care because it doubles the pedophile.
They're just dancing.
I'm answering your question. It doubles the pedophile population in Australia. Every pedophile in Australia can bring a mate in from overseas under a gay marriage visa. Now we just doubled the number of pedophiles in Australia.
Australia is a bloody mess.
Gay marriage is child abuse.
Is a pedophilic, Masonic, fucking totalitarian police state. It's an absolute nightmare. Absolutely. Let's go to merry old England and our friend Robert Tate.
Hello. Yeah, I've just tuned in, and you were talking about gay marriage, and I think you were saying you didn't mind it or something. Was that right?
Yeah. Why shouldn't gay people be as unhappy as straight people?
I'll tell you why. Marriage is for procreation. It's as if I went to a golf club and I told them to change all the rules, or it's as if the institution of marriage is for procreation.
But do you care what these homosexuals do? Like
I do care. Yeah, I do. It greatly upsets me. It's because one thing leads to the next. When they legalized homosexuality in England in '67, no one would ever have thought it was going to lead to gay marriage, right? After gay marriage, then you get the transsexuals. They want their rights. And then you have the drag queens, and a lot of drag queens are pedophiles. Like, you get gay marches in Canada with children where men perform oral sex on each other and they do buggery, and that's what it leads to.
Listen, I'm
seen the photos. It's real.
I'm not with any of that. Okay, and I rail against it, and the obscenity. It's profane. It's a live sex show. It's unseemly. I'm not with any of that stuff. Okay.
Australia, you get prosecuted for criticising what happened at the Toronto Pride Parade 2014. Yes, there's photos of what that guy just talked about, and you can lose your house. Bernard Gaynor was sued for sharing that actual.
Listen, a libertarian, not in the political sense. I just believe in personal freedom, and I can't tell somebody that they can't. Listen, like in the immortal words of Fat Joe, niggas is gay. There's going to be gay people. Okay, I can't control that. I got. It's just a reality that we have to deal with now. Knowing that there's going to be gay people, no matter what. There's going to be people that like the Franken beans, no matter what. Okay. How are we going to treat them? Are we going to persecute them? Are we going to discriminate against them? Well, you really can't, right? And then if they commit a crime, they have to be prosecuted like any other criminal. But
gay marriage double the number of pedophiles in Australia, and I can prove it. You want to hear that?
What's that?
Gay marriage double the number of pedophiles in Australia.
Please let me speak. I can't stay silent. Al, you really can't believe that like homosexuality is okay. I mean, it's a mental disorder, dude.
Listen, it's not okay for me. But who am I to impose that on two gay guys that want to fucking bugger each other?
Look,
it's got nothing to do with me.
I'm an anarchist voluntarism type, so I'm really a libertarian at heart too. I get it, but you can't allow mental disorders to overtake your society. You can't allow them to.
I'm not suggesting that we do. I'm just saying that it's going to happen. It's going to occur. It's going to occur.
Mentally disordered people in your society. You can't, because it's really just a form of fucking sexual predation. Because it's like 90-something% of gay people were touched or sexually molested by a man when they were a child. That's oftentimes how people become gay. They're not born.
Yes, that is true. I cannot attest to that percentage number.
Yeah,
but I know that is true. That's how homosexuals procreate.
Yes. So it's not. I used to be like you. I totally used to be like that, Al, and I've completely changed my mind now. I cannot allow that shit to go on in our society.
What do you mean you can't allow that shit to go on? What are you going to do about it?
Put them in a fucking mental institution or something. They are mentally disabled. They are not fit for
society. I can prove he's right. The American Psychiatric Association never had a full general member vote to remove homosexuality, not from the list of mental disorders, but it was under the mental disorder of sexual depravity.
Yeah, look, I know.
There never was a vote.
My second father was a psychiatrist. He also subscribed to that. And that's how they were trained up until like the 60s and 70s. That it's a mental disorder.
Up until about 75. Now, there was under medical.
I get it, guys. I get it.
It's a medical controversy.
I'm not with the gay program. I'm not. I rail against the LGBTQ on steroids agenda every fucking day. But at the same time, I can't impose my sexual preference on anybody else. That's
well, Albert. I sometimes admit when I'm wrong and change my views. My pin tweet, I've got two facts to say to you, then I'm going to shut up for a bit, okay, because I've been hogging the space. Number one, my pin thread is how the Australian government, to protect the gay marriage vote agenda, blessed the union of a gay marriage activist anatomy into a 14-year-old Catholic boy from St. Joseph's Nudgee, rear end, Chiron Reed. Okay, so this actually happened. State-sponsored child rape and the creation of super pedophiles who are too big to jail, who'll bring down the police if they ever got caught reoffending, who's right now working in Tambourine Mountain State High School. There's that. State-sponsored child rape for gay marriage. A causal link between gay marriage and child abuse is right there. Another thing.
I get it. It's highly problematic. Look.
30 years ago. Sir.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir.
The other point, number two, I'm going to shut up for after a while of this, but I have to lay the law down now, or ban me or whatever, I don't care. Point number two is 30 years ago, there wasn't incestual gay dad's baby rape from birth as a type of the most disgusting child sexual abuse that exists. Gays didn't have custody of kids that came with gay marriage. That has happened now. Also, thanks to gay marriage, every convicted gay pedophile in Australia who's gone to jail for child rape can sponsor someone else from their boy lovers forum or whatever it's called these days into Australia on a gay marriage visa. I tried to get a homosexual deported from Australia, Ali Chowdhury Photography, Melbourne, who was sponsored by Slurp T1 on Twitter, who was extradited to America for child porn. And I said the Migration Act says the visa sponsor as well as the visa recipient must be of good character to do a marriage partner visa, so that one pedophile could stay in Australia and Luke McKee not claim his homosexual scalp. that was repealed. So now all convicted pedophiles who identify as gay can sponsor another pedophile into the country. Therefore, gay marriage has doubled the number of pedophiles in Australia, my biggest defeat, which I'm not proud of, because I didn't underestimate how evil the government was. And now, because of gay marriage and gay pride, the pedophile population has doubled in Australia, thanks to gay dads, aka little boy lovers and little girl lovers, pairing up, and every foreign gay who wants to go to Australia and rape Aussie kids now can with visa free, practically visa free. If you want to get into Australia and you're a pedophile, you go on Boy Lovers or whatever the website they were using. It was boylovers.net in 2013. That involves to a news story that my dad was linked to, for disrespecting a gay pedophile in the McKee versus Burns court case in Australia, which is disgusting, brought forwards by a Jewish pedophile, Gary Burns, who was the first homosexual on the mainstream news when Kevin Rudd announced there would be gay marriage. And yes, the video clip of that is on my Twitter. I'm dropping my mic now, but gay marriage has doubled the number of child rape in Australia. And I won't even say how much it's increased the frequency of abuse, because pedophiles, like water, will go the path of least resistance. They don't have to steal kids anymore from protective heterosexual parents. They can now adopt them. And the Auto Templi Orientis is linked to gay adoption being passed in Australia. And if you want me to keep speaking, you ask me to continue and tell you how that actually happened as well.
Listen, your situation in Australia is horrific, and I admit that. But you got to make it somewhat. You have to delineate between how Jewry weaponizes these things, right? They weaponize feminism to turn husband against wife, man against woman. They do this divide and conquer, and it's full spectral.
Well, I'll give you the divide.
Let me finish. Let me finish. In terms of immigration, in terms of the gay agenda, because they know that if they keep expanding and probing outwards as a subversive fifth column, it's going to bring us a society low. So you have to kind of make that distinction about Jewry weaponizing this against us and the rank and file Beans and Frank homosexual.
Well, you're 1% of the population, the Beans and Frank homosexual, 1% of the population is catering for their needs. The 1% gets 40% of all the children who are raped, who are male victims of male pedophiles. Okay, so or around about 36, 37.
Look, I know gays are 33% more likely to rape a child. I know all of the problematic areas, and yeah, it's fucking a problem. Don't get me wrong, and there's no listen. You're the pedo hunter. I've done hundreds of hours on child sex rings, pedophilia, the McMorton preschool, the Presidio, the Franklin cover-up, the Callboy scandal, the fucking Brownstone scandals. I've done stream after stream and stream after stream to reclaim this.
Yeah, but you don't know the basics. I'll give you my dad's basics.
Let me finish, Luke, or I'm going to cut you off. You're not going to run over me on my space. It's not going to happen. All these things I've done extensive, comprehensive coverage of for years. So I'm aware. Okay? Go ahead.
Sorry, could I say something? What you were saying about homosexuals being persecuted, in Russia, homosexuality is not illegal, right? But they do not tolerate gay pride.
Wait. Who said anything about homosexuals being persecuted?
No, but you were saying, what do you want to do about homosexuals? Are you going to have them persecuted? And you said something along those lines.
Right. I was asking, what do you do? What do you do with them?
Well, you do what they do in Russia. You do not encourage it in any way. The values of Russia are the values of
Australia is horrific, and I admit that. But you got to make it somewhat. You have to delineate between how Jewry weaponizes these things, right? They weaponize feminism to turn husband against wife, man against woman. They do this divide and conquer, and it's full spectral.
Well, I'll give you the divide.
Let me finish. Let me finish. In terms of immigration, in terms of the gay agenda, because they know that if they keep expanding and probing outwards as a subversive fifth column, it's going to bring us a society low. So you have to kind of make that distinction about Jewry weaponizing this against us and the rank and file Beans and Frank homosexual.
Well, you're 1% of the population, the Beans and Frank homosexual, 1% of the population is catering for their needs. The 1% gets 40% of all the children who are raped, who are male victims of male pedophiles. Okay, so or around about 36, 37.
Look, I know gays are 33% more likely to rape a child. I know all of the problematic areas, and yeah, it's fucking a problem. Don't get me wrong, and there's no listen. You're the pedo hunter. I've done hundreds of hours on child sex rings, pedophilia, the McMartin preschool, the Presidio, the Franklin cover-up, the Callboy scandal, the fucking Brownstone scandals. I've done stream after stream and stream after stream to reclaim this.
Yeah, but you don't know the basics. I'll give you my dad's basic study.
Let me finish, Luke, or I'm going to cut you off. I'm not going to be. You're not going to run over me on my space. It's not going to happen. All these things I've done extensive, comprehensive coverage of for years. So I'm aware. Okay? Go ahead.
Sorry, can I say something? What you were saying about homosexuals being persecuted, in Russia, homosexuality is not illegal, right? But they do not tolerate gay pride.
Who said anything about homosexuals being persecuted?
No, but you were saying, what do you want to do about homosexuals? Are you going to have them persecuted? And you said something along those lines.
Right. I was asking, what do you do? What do you do with them?
Well, you do what they do in Russia. You do not encourage it in any way. The values of Russia are the values of the majority. Most Russians are heterosexuals, and Putin, they're not going to promote buggery on the television. They're going to show ideal families of Russians with the boy and the girl and the man in his manly role. That's what they're going to do in Russia.
Yeah, they treat gay propaganda like porn. Keep it away from kids.
Hold on a second, Luke. Robert, I'm 100% with the Russian model. 100%.
Yeah.
You know, they're not promoting the beta incel. They're not promoting the fucking LGBTQ on steroids social agenda in Russia. They're not pushing the toxic masculinity in Russia. They're promoting the alpha male. I'm all with it.
America used to be like that in the 50s. America probably was like that as well.
Yeah, watch the Boys Beware infomercial by Inglewood Unified School District and the LAPD on the dangers of children going near gay men. That's a classic one. I love that.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, if you're a parent, right, and you know, you have that discretion to rear your kid